Yang Guo was worrying about his stomach. It was as if he hasn't seen the beggars yet. After he finished his bowl, he went over to the rice bucket and filled another. He stretched out his hand and picked a fish up from the plates in front of Lu Wuxia. The soup and juices of the fish spilled all over the table. He laughed foolishly and said, "Ha ha, I'm going to eat a fish." Lu Wuxia frowned slightly. She had no time to scold him. She heard the four beggars sing again, singing Little Miss again. The four beggars repeated this 3 times, the 8 eyes all fixed on her. Lu Wuxia didn't know how to deal with them. She slowly spooned the rice, pretending that she didn't hear, but she was extremely worried inside. One of the beggars loudly called out, "Little Miss, if you won't spare a bowl of rice, then how about sparing a curved saber?" Another one said, "Come with us and we won't make it hard for you. We just want to clear a few things up and come to a fair conclusion." After a while, someone said, "Just quickly come, do you really want us to use force?" Lu Wuxia thought that it would be no use whether she replied or kept quiet. She didn't know what to do. The fourth beggar said, "We won't use force against you. The heroes of Jianghu would laugh at the 4 of us for bullying a little girl. We just want you to come along and talk." From their tone, Lu Wuxia knew that they were about to attack. She knew that it would be hard for her to fight them off, yet she couldn't wait for defeat. Her left hand held the bench. When the enemy came, she would use the bench to fight them off. Yang Guo thought, "Time for me to do my stuff." He ran over to Lu Wuxia's table and picked up the bowl of soup. His mouth was biting down on the fish. He mumbled, I'm going to spill the soup." The bowl tipped and half the hot soup spilled on the Lu Wuxia's right arm. She was facing east, her arm was slightly inwards, and when the soup came, she immediately pulled back and turned around to take a look. Yang Guo called out, "Ai ya." He used his right arm and wiped her arm and leg, and at the same time his left hand waved. 4 bamboo chopsticks flew out, each one shooting out at the beggars. The 4 chopsticks were extremely fast. Before the beggars could see it, their arms were in pain. A crashing sound was heard as 4 bowls crashed onto the floor. Yang Guo used his garment and wiped Lu Wuxia's sleeve continuously and said, Don't get angry. I'll wipe it clean." Lu Wuxia scolded, "Don't mess around." She turned around to look at the beggars and was alarmed. She saw the backs of the beggars going around the street corner and disappearing, the floor covered with the remains of broken bowls. Lu Wuxia questioned, "Those 4 beggars are strange. Why did they leave all of a sudden?" She saw Yang Guo's hands was filled with fish soup and vegetable sauce and was wiping frantically on the table. She scolded, "Go away, aren't you embarrassed?" Yang Guo said, Yes. He wiped his hands on his clothes. Lu Wuxia frowned and asked, "Why did the 4 beggars go?" Yang Guo said, "They saw you were short-tempered and wouldn't spare anything. There wasn't any use in begging anymore, so they left." Lu Wuxia pondered for a while and didn't understand. She took out some money and told Yang Guo to buy a donkey with it. After she paid her bills, she got on the donkey. As soon as she got on the donkey, her ribs moved and she shouted out in pain. Yang Guo said, "It's a pity that I'm dirty and smelly, otherwise I could support you." Lu Wuxia said, "Humph, still talking crap." She pulled on the rope. The donkey was extremely stubborn, and it leaned against the wall and forced her against the wall as well. Lu Wuxia had no strength in her arms and legs. She called out and fell off the donkey. Her right leg landed on the ground and slowly stood up. Her wound was disturbed again and she was in pain. She angrily shouted, "You saw me fall, yet you didn't help me." Yang Guo said, "I'm dirty." Lu Wuxia said, "Can't you wash first?" Yang Guo gave a stupid laugh and didn't say anything. Lu Wuxia said, "Help me get on the donkey." Yang Guo did as he was told and helped her onto the donkey. As soon as the donkey felt someone on its back, it immediately started to buck. Lu Wuxia said, "Quickly lead the donkey." Yang Guo said, "No, I'm scared that the donkey is going to kick me. It would be better if it was my bull." Lu Wuxia was exasperated and thought, "He's not completely stupid. Obviously, he wants to hold on to me." She had no alternative and could only say, "Fine, you can ride on the donkey as well." Yang Guo said, "Remember you told me. Don't shout at me for being dirty and smelly." Lu Wuxia said, "Yes, why are you wasting time?" Yang Guo laughed and climbed onto the back of the donkey, his arms gathered around her. He kicked with a bit of strength in his legs. The donkey felt pain and didn't dare to cause trouble anymore and obediently walked forward. Yang Guo said, "Which way are we going?" Lu Wuxia had already planned out her route. She wanted to go east through Tongyuan and then through Zhangzhou and then go south following the main road. But after seeing the 4 beggars, she knew that she would encounter more beggar clan members along the way, so she thought about going along the small paths. Go through the bamboo forest and towards Colt Dragon Stockade, and then south via Purple Meadow. Although this would make the journey longer, it was a lot safer and it would be harder for her master to catch up with her. After pondering for a while, she pointed southeast and said, "That way." The donkey trotted along slowly. As soon as they left the town, a small child rushed up to them and called out, "Miss Lu, I have something for you." As she said this, she flung a flower to them and then turned around and ran away. Lu Wuxuang stretched out her hand and caught it, and saw a letter wrapped around it. She quickly opened the envelope and saw a yellow piece of paper. It read, "Your master will be here shortly, quickly hide." The yellow paper was coarse, but the writing on it was elegant. Lu Wuxuang gave out an alarmed shout. She pondered, "Who is that little kid? How does he know my name is Lu? And how do they know that my master is going to be here shortly?" She asked Yang Guo. "You know that child, don't you? It was your Gu who sent him, isn't it?" Yang Guo had already read the letter from behind her and thought, "That kid was just a normal country kid. He must have been ordered to take the letter to us by someone. But who wrote the letter? It looks like it has good intentions. If Li Mochou really caught up, what should I do?" Although he had learned the Jade Heart Manual and 9 Yin Manual and possessed 2 of the greatest skills in the world of Wulin, he had only practiced them for a short time. Though he understood the essence behind them, his internal energy wasn't deep enough. If Li Mochou caught up, he would not be a match for her, and in broad daylight there wasn't anywhere to hide. He was pondering, but had no idea. When Lu Wuxuang asked him, he replied, "I don't know that little Sha Dan, but my Gu did not send that kid." As soon as he said this, he heard a noise. Ahead was a carriage. Tens of people were crowding and pushing around. There was a wedding taking place. Although it was the countryside, the event was done with an extravagant air. It was done with much enthusiasm and energy. A thought suddenly popped up in Yang Guo's mind. He asked, "Do you want to be a bride?" Avoiding the enemy by all means. Lu Wuxuang was frightened at this moment in time. When she heard him ask such a stupid question, she angrily said, "Sha Dan, what the hell are you talking about?" Yang Guo laughed and said, "Let's play bride and groom. Why don't you pretend to be a bride? Won't that be beautiful? With a red veil covering your face, when people look they won't see your face." Lu Wuxuang was startled and said, "You're instructing me to pretend to be a bride to avoid my master?" Yang Guo laughed and said, "I don't know. You pretend to be a bride and I'll be the groom." This was an urgent matter. Lu Wuxuang had no time to scold him. She thought, "Sha Dan's idea is a strange one, but apart from this idea, there's nothing else." She asked, "How should we do it?" Yang Guo didn't want to waste time. He lashed the donkey and it hurried forward. The small roads of the countryside were tight and narrow, with 8 people carrying the sedan chair lining up along the road. The 2 groups had nowhere to pass. When the people saw the donkey charging forward, they all shouted, telling the riders to rein it in and slow down. Yang Guo squeezed his legs and urged the donkey to go even faster. In a flash, it had come up to the crowd. 2 strong men had earlier stepped up, wanting to pull the donkey back so that it won't knock into the sedan chair. Yang Guo's rope lashed out and wrapped around the 2 men's arms. He raised his arm and let go. The 2 men fell onto the ground. He turned around to Lu Wuxuang and said, "I want to be a groom." He leaned forward and stretched out his hand to grab the groom, who was riding on a white horse. The groom was about 17 or 18 years of age. He was fitted out with new clothes and with gold flowers on his head. The sudden grab by Yang Guo frightened him. Yang Guo lifted his body and flung him up. His body flew up over a distance of 10 feet. When he was about to land, the people shouted and called out, stretching out their arms to catch him. There were about 30 people who were helping to celebrate. Half of them were tall, strong men of Guanxi, but when they saw his skills and the groom in his hands, how did they dare attack? An experienced old man dashed up. Thinking it was bandits, he said, "Please spare the groom, De Wang, king. The amount of money that De Wang wants, we can discuss it." Yang Guo turned around to Lu Wuxuang and said, "Wifey, why are they calling me De Wang? My surname is De. I think he's even more stupid than me." Lu Wuxuang said, "Don't waste time. I think I can hear the bell of my master's donkey." Yang Guo was startled. He listened carefully, and indeed he could hear a faint ringing sound. He thought, "She's quick." He then said, "Ling Zai bell, what Ling Zai? It's a sweet seller. Great, let's buy some sweets to eat." He turned around to the old man and said, "If you listen to my instructions, then I'll let you go. Otherwise," he lifted up the groom and threw him up in the air. The groom was so frightened that he began to cry. The old man made a bow and said, "We'll do as De Wang instructs." Yang Guo pointed to Lu Wuxuang and said, "That's my little wifey. When she saw that someone was getting married, she thought that it was amusing. She herself wants to take part too." Lu Wuxuang scolded, "Sha Dan, what did you say?" Yang Guo ignored her and said, "Quickly take the bride's clothes and put them on her. I'll be the groom." It's not unusual for kids to pretend to be a bride and groom, but who would think that a bandit on a narrow road would suddenly want to play this game? The people all looked at each other in dismay and refused. Looking at the two, one was a young man, the other was a young girl, and one could describe them as a married couple. But the crowd of people didn't care. Yang Guo heard the ringing of the bell getting closer, so he leapt off the donkey and placed the groom on the saddle, letting Lu Wuxia guard him, and went over to the sedan chair. He pushed aside the curtain and pulled the bride out. The bride screeched out in fright. Her face was covered with a red veil and didn't know what was happening outside. Yang Guo brushed aside her red veil and saw a face like the moon, a face full of joy. He laughed and said, "The bride is beautiful." He lightly touched her cheek. The bride froze in fright and didn't make a sound. Yang Guo's left hand held up the bride and called out, "If you want me to spare her, quickly take her clothes and give them to my wifey to wear." Lu Wuxia heard the ringing of her master's donkey getting closer. She gave him a stare and thought, "That Shadan doesn't know how high the sky is or how deep the earth is, and his mouth is still joking at this time." She heard the old man following his instructions. "Quick, quick, quickly change the bride's clothes." The nanny accompanying the bride quickly took off her phoenix headdress and her bridal costume and dressed Lu Wuxia with them. Taking off the groom's costume, Yang Guo changed himself. He turned around to Lu Wuxia and said, "Good wifey, enter the sedan chair." Lu Wuxia told the bride to enter the sedan chair first, and then she entered, lowering the curtain afterwards. Yang Guo took a look at his grass shoes and wanted to change them when he heard the ringing sound from just around the bend in the road. He called out, "Turn around and head in a southeast direction, quickly. If someone comes and asks about us, don't say you've seen us." He leapt onto the white horse and rode along with the groom on the donkey. When the crowd saw the couple had fallen into their hands, they didn't dare to disobey. They raised their gongs and cymbals and started their tune. The sedan chair was picked up and turned around, but after about 100 feet, the ringing sound was becoming quicker. 2 donkeys trotted after them. Lu Wuxia was thinking about whether she would be able to escape from this danger and heard the now much closer ringing sound. Her heart jumped, and she carefully listened to the activities of outside. Yang Guo pretended to be embarrassed and lowered his head, looking at the horse's neck. He heard Hong Lingbo call out, "Hey, have you seen a lame girl walking past here?" The old man from the crowd called out, "No, no." Hong Lingbo asked again, "Have you seen a girl on an animal pass by?" The old man said, "No." The two passed the crowd and rushed on by. After a short while, the two pulled the donkeys around and returned. Li Mochou's fly whisk flew out and wrapped around the sedan chair curtain. She pulled back, and after a kai's sound, the curtain ripped in half. Yang Guo was alarmed and rushed forward. As soon as the fly whisk comes out a second time, he will make his move and rescue her. He didn't know that after one look in the sedan chair, Li Mochou would smile and say, "The bride is handsome." She raised her head and said to Yang Guo, "Little punk, your luck isn't bad." Yang Guo lowered his head, not daring to face her, but heard them trotting away. Yang Guo wondered, why did she spare Miss Lu? He opened the sedan chair curtain only to see the bride scared out of her wits, and Lu Wuxia had disappeared. Yang Guo was even more baffled and called out, "Aya, where's my wifey gone?" Lu Wuxia laughed and said, "I've disappeared." He saw the bride's dress move, and Lu Wuxia darted out. She had hidden underneath the bride's gown. She knew that her master was very meticulous and careful. She would examine all possibilities. She knew that her master would come back, so she hid. Yang Guo said, "You can relax and be the bride from now on. Sitting in the sedan chair is much more comfortable than riding on the donkey." Lu Wuxia nodded and said to the bride, "You are suffocating me. Quickly get out." The bride could do nothing and exited the sedan chair and rode on the donkey that was previously ridden by Lu Wuxia. The bride and the groom had never met before. The groom saw that the bride was healthy and attractive. The bride saw the groom, and she too was pleased. The two were delighted even with their fear, and soon forgot that they were being held hostage by a bandit. They walked on for about 20 li, 10 km/6.2 miles, and the sky gradually became dark. The old man kept on pleading with Yang Guo to let them go in case they missed the wedding's lucky period. Yang Guo scolded, "Why are you so annoying?" As soon as he said this, something flashed by the roadside and 2 people hurried into the forest. Yang Guo was suspicious and chased after them. Indeed, he saw the backs of 2 people. Their clothes were old and torn, and they looked like beggars. Yang Guo reined in his horse and thought, could the beggar clan have seen through us and set up a trap ahead? But at this moment in time, all we can do is head forward. Not long after, the sedan chair caught up with him. Lu Wuxuang poked her head out and asked, "What did you see?" Yang Gu said, "Your curtain is torn and your face is not covered by the red veil. To be a proper bride, one must cry and sob, even if the bride wants to get married. Tears should flow and noses should run, calling out for your father and mother but not daring to leave. Where can you find such an unabashed bride as you under heaven's skies?" Lu Wuxuang heard his words and understood the meaning behind it. Their movements seemed to have been discovered. She lightly called out, "Sha Dan," and didn't say any more. After a while, the mountain path in front of them became steep, narrow, and rugged. The people leading the procession were extremely tired long ago, but didn't say anything in case they incurred Yang Gu's wrath. In the wink of the eye, the sun was now above the mountain. Crows screeched as they flew in the sky. Suddenly, voices were heard around the mountain. They were singing, "Little miss, do a good deed. Please spare us a silver saber." Lu Wuxuang's face turned pale, and she thought, "So the 4 beggars are hiding around here." After the sedan chair turned a corner, 3 men could be seen in front of them. They were beggars. They were tall and strongly built. They were completely different to the 4 beggars they previously encountered. The crowd carrying the couple had waited impatiently. One of them had taken a whip and lashed out at one of the beggars, calling out, "Move out of the way. Move out of the way." The beggar did not move. He held the tip of the whip and pulled. The person holding the whip fell down. If this happened normally, the crowd of people would have rushed up, but they had been frightened by Yang Guo previously and all thought, "So the 3 beggars are with him." No one dared to move forward and instead took a few steps back. One of the beggars clearly said, "Congratulations, Miss Little Beggar here, just want to beg for some money." Lu Wuxuang quietly said, "Sha Dan, I'm injured at the moment and can't fight. Get rid of them for me." Yang Guo said, "Fine." He galloped forward on his horse and said, "Today is my wife's special day. She doesn't want any beggars to spoil it. Now move." One of the beggars took a few glances at Yang Guo but couldn't recognize him from anywhere. The 4 beggars who had been struck in the wrist by the chopsticks all thought it was Lu Wuxuang who did this, and so did not tell their martial uncles about Yang Guo. One of the beggars waved out his right hand. Yang Guo's horse was frightened and reared up. Yang Guo pretended to wobble and fell off the back of the horse and didn't pick himself up for a long time. The 3 beggars all thought, "So that person really is the groom." The beggar clan is a righteous and chivalrous clan. They have always helped the weak against the strong and aided those who were in danger. They had only decided to go after Lu Wuxuang because she hurt a member of their clan. When they saw Yang Guo falling onto the ground and didn't seem to know any martial arts, they all felt apologetic. One of the beggars stretched out a hand to pull him up and said, "Sorry." Yang Guo mumbled, "What's wrong with you people? If you want to beg for money, then beg for money. Why are you scaring my horse?" He took out some change and handed it out. The 3 beggars thanked him according to the clan's rules. Yang Guo laughed and said to Lu Wuxuang, "You told me to give them money. I've already done it." Lu Wuxuang angrily said, "What use is there of pretending to be stupid to me?" Yang Guo said, "Yes, yes." He stepped to the side and brushed off the dirt off his body. Lu Wuxuang saw the 3 beggars were still blocking the way. She calmly said, "What do you want?" One of the beggars said, "Miss is a skilled fighter of the ancient tomb sect. The 3 of us admire your skills and want a few pointers." Lu Wuxuang said, "I have a serious wound. How can I fight with you? If you don't like it, then we can arrange a later date and test out each other's skills after my injury has healed. You are skilled fighters of the beggar clan. Today you are ganging up on an injured young girl. Can you still call yourself a hero?" After hearing her words, the 3 beggars felt that they were indeed in the wrong. 2 of them said, "Fine, we'll come back for you after your wound has recovered." The other beggar said, "Wait, where exactly are you injured? You have to let me take a look to see whether it's real or fake. If it is a real wound, then I'll spare you today." He didn't know that she was hurt in the chest. His words had no harmful intentions. But Lu Wuxuang's cheeks immediately turned red and couldn't stop herself from being angry. Feeling this anger, she wasn't able to think of anything to say. After half a minute, she scolded, "In Jianghu, the beggar clan is known to be heroic and chivalrous. This is a lie. You people are in fact shameless scoundrels." When the 3 heard her denigrate the beggar clan's name, their faces immediately changed. One of them was rash and impatient. He dashed forward, stretching out his hand, wanting to grab her out of the sedan chair. Yang Guo saw that the situation had become urgent. He called out, "Wait, wait. You lot asked for money. I gave you money. Why are you still arguing with my wife?" He dashed forward in front of the sedan chair and said, "Although you 3 are beggars now, according to your faces you will become rich and become officials in the future. How can you do such disgraceful things and treat my new wife with such disrespect?" The three beggars were startled and had no reply. The impulsive beggar said, "Move out of the way, we just want to test out the ancient tomb's kung fu, who's bullying who?" He lightly pushed out his hand. Yang Guo called out loudly and dropped to the side. The beggar clan has a rule: one must not hit out at someone who doesn't know martial arts. The beggar didn't know that this groom was so useless, just a light push and he fell onto the ground. If he was seriously hurt, he would be punished within the clan, and the other two would not be able to escape punishment as well. The three of them were startled and went over to pick him up. Yang Guo shouted and called out, "Ai yo, mum." The three beggars could not see clearly if he was hurt or not. Yang Guo called out in pain and said, "You three are stupid, my wife is shy. How can she speak to strangers? And about this, what do you want to test out? First tell me. I'll then go and ask my wife and then come back to speak with you, is that all right?" The three of them saw that he was dumb but not stupid. They had had enough of this, but it wasn't suitable to attack him. The oldest of the beggars thought, "That Lu girl is pretending to be a bride. If that young man really is the groom, then he should help her. But if he is pretending to be a groom, then he shouldn't be so useless." He carefully studied him but couldn't find anything wrong. The impulsive beggar waved out his hand and shouted, "Are you going to move?" Yang Guo spread out his two hands and loudly said, "You can't harm my wife." Another beggar said, "Miss Lu, are you ordering this Sha Dan to block for you? Could it be that you think we won't be able to get to you with this obstruction? Just get it over with and come out here." Yang Guo said, "Oh, you know that I'm called Sha Dan, how strange." The impulsive beggar faced Lu Wuxia and said, "We don't have to fight. We just want to see how you used your saber to hack into someone's shoulder. What is this move called?" Lu Wuxia knew that Yang Guo was trying to annoy them, but without results. She was thinking about how to escape when she heard the beggar's question and replied without thinking, "It's called The Mink Greets the Moon. What about it?" Yang Guo interrupted and said, "Correct, once my wife's saber comes out. With a foo sound, it will be in your shoulder." His right hand extended out and found its way to the beggar's shoulder. He pushed downwards, and the palm of his hand lightly touched the shoulder. When the three beggars saw this move, they were all startled and all thought, "He pretended to be a fake groom all along to trick us." Although Yang Guo had not put any strength into his palm, the impulsive beggar who was struck felt embarrassed and called out, "Fine, you scoundrel, pretending to be dumb, come, let me first test out your skills." Yang Guo said, "You said you wanted to fight with my wife first. Why do you want to fight with me now?" The beggar angrily said, "It's all the same if I fight with you." Yang Guo said, "Oh no, I don't know what to do." He turned around to Lu Wuxia and said, "My darling wife, my little wifey, tell me what should I do to them?" Lu Wuxia was beyond doubt now. She knew that he must be highly skilled. The palm he had just demonstrated was crisp and clean. She couldn't manage something like that, but she didn't know what his martial arts origins were, so she just said, "Do another stance of the mink greets the moon. Dio Chan Bai Yue." Yang Guo said, "Fine." He bent his waist and extended his hand. A clapping sound was heard as he struck down on the beggar's shoulder again. The three beggars were astonished with that last attack. Yang Guo was definitely facing away from them, and he didn't take a step to turn around. All he did was stretch out his hand, and the chop came down on the beggar's shoulder. That palm technique was extremely strange. Lu Wuxia's heart shook. "That's definitely my ancient tomb sect's kung fu. How does he know it?" She then said, "A stance of the West offers the heart. Zai Shi Peng Zin." Yang Guo said, "All right." His left fist came out and landed on his opponent's chest. The beggar who was struck in the chest felt a strong force pushing him forward. He couldn't stop himself from flying away about 10 feet. He struggled to stay on his feet, but the area of his chest where he was struck was not in pain. It was as if someone had carried him and placed him further away. The other two beggars dashed up. Lu Wuxia said, "The illustrious gentleman pushes out. Zhao Jun Chu Sai. The Num Nun offers life. Ma Gu Xian Shu." Yang Guo's left hand rose and slanted, the fingers on his right hand stretched out. His form was in the position of strumming a zither. His 5 fingers flicked out at the beggar on the right. This was the illustrious gentleman pushes out. He immediately moved across and kicked the beggar on the left. His fists came together and pushed upwards. A clashing sound was heard as his fists struck the opponent's jaw. He then called out, "This is the Num Nun offers life, isn't it?" He didn't want to hurt anyone, so he didn't put any strength behind his attacks. The 4 stances he used were all exquisite stances of the ancient tomb's beauty fist techniques. Ever since Lin Keiying founded the ancient tomb sect, all the arts were passed on to females, never males. Lin Keiying's beauty fist technique took the names of famous beauties for the name of its stances. When it is used, it is elegant. graceful and enchanting, yet it was deadly at the same time. Yang Guo learned martial arts from Xiao Longnu, so of course he learned this set of fist techniques. He felt that although it was a refined set of skills, its nature meant that when a man practiced it, it wasn't appealing. When he was practicing, he inadvertently changed its soft nature to hard and yang. Its changes became swift and stylish. Though the nature of it was slightly different, the technique of this set of fists remained intact. The three beggars were all struck by the stances without knowing what happened, but they didn't feel any pain from the stances. They weren't in awe of Yang Guo's skills. They whistled and attacked all at once. Yang Guo dodged to the east and darted to the west. He called out, "Wifey, it looks like it's becoming desperately serious. You are going to be a widow today?" Lu Wuxuang scoffed and said, "Heaven's grandson weaves cotton. Tian Sun Jai Mayan." Yang Guo's right hand wiped his left pushed the right, and his stance resembled a loom weaving cloth, one scatter, one push. His hands struck the beggars on the shoulders again. Lu Wuxuang called out again, "The civil gentleman as a stove. Wen Jun Dang Lu, the concubine is drunk. Gui Fei Zui Jiu." Yang Guo raised his hand as if he was pouring wine and cut down on the impulsive beggar's forehead and caught his body. He twisted him around and flung him out to the right, his shoulder hitting another beggar squarely in the chest. The three beggars were alarmed and angry. The three of them used the kung fu they had obtained throughout their lives, yet now they couldn't even touch this kid's clothes. The boy looked and his hand waved out. Whoever he wanted to hit, he struck. Although it wasn't painful when they were hit, it was extremely weird. Lu Wuxuang called out 3 stances in a row. "Foolish jade blows the flute. Nang Yu Chui Zio. The descending goddess encroaches the wave. Luo Shen Ling Bo. Enticing shoot holding fist. Gu Yi Wo Quan." Yang Guo did as he was told. Lu Wuxuang was in awe. She deliberately gave him a hard stance as Yang Guo was throwing out his fist. She immediately called out, "Ruling sky hangs, Zitian Chui." According to his form at the moment, it was impossible to use this stance, but because Yang Guo's internal energy was much higher than the enemy's, he actually managed it. His body went forward, his palms hanging down. The three beggars saw that his chest was exposed and there was a weakness. They were delighted and dashed forward, but they didn't know that his internal energy would hold them back and force them to retreat a few steps. Lu Wuxuang was pleasantly surprised and called out, "One laugh overturns the country, Yizairo Ching Guo." This was a stance that she had just invented. A captivating beauty could overturn cities and countries with a smile, but how could this be used to fight with others? Yang Guo was startled. He immediately laughed out loud. "Ha ha ha ha, hi 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 hi, hu hu hi," and circulated the profound internal energy of the 9-yin manual. Although he hadn't refined this internal energy to a good level that could be used to fight off skilled fighters, the 3-band 5 beggars were just run-of-the-mill fighters. When they heard this strange laugh, they couldn't stop their heads from shaking and eyes from being dazzled. Their bodies shook a few times and they fell down onto the ground. Every person has a moon-shaped small object in their ear which controls the person's balance. If this object is forced to shake, headaches and feeling light-headed will be unavoidable. Eventually, they won't be able to stand upright. Yang Guo's laugh was created by his strong internal energy. Everyone's eardrums were being shaken continuously, and it was like the earth and sky were flipping over. Lu Wuxuang felt faint and urgently grabbed onto the carriage to support herself. Calls of ai and thudding noises all sounded together. The well-wishers of the wedding, the bride and groom all fell onto the ground. Yang Guo's laughter stopped. The 3 beggars got up, their faces gray, and they ran away without turning their heads back. The rest of the party rested for half an hour and then carried the sedan chair on. Now they treated Yang Guo's order as words from the gods. They didn't dare to revolt. At Zheng Shifen, "I assume it's 9 o'clock in the evening." They reached a town and Yang Guo let the people go. The people knew that they would be detained after being captured by this bandit and would most likely suffer his wrath. How were they to know that this bandit really wanted to have a laugh and pretend to be a newlywed? They were surprised and all thanked and expressed gratitude to Yang Guo. The nanny was much more vocal and said, "De Wang and his wife would stay together for 100 of years until both of you are old with white hair. You are going to have many little De Wangs." This made Yang Guo laugh. Lu Wuxuang was embarrassed and angry with this. Yang Guo and Lu Wuxuang found an inn and called for some rice and other dishes. They were about to eat when they saw someone enter, and after seeing the 2 of them, immediately turned around and walked away. Yang Guo knew something was wrong and went over to the entrance and saw 2 people standing in a pavilion. It was the two Taoists who fought with Lu Wuxia at Wolf Valley, Shen Jifen and Jai Qingsu. The two of them took out their long swords and darted forward. Yang Guo thought, "Why are you two trying to make trouble for me? Are you looking for pain?" The two approached but slanted their body and brushed past him. They hurried into the hall and headed for Lu Wuxia. At this time, the ringing of a bell was suddenly heard. Ding-ling, ding-ling. By the time the ringing sounds were in their ears, the source had arrived. The two Taoists' faces changed and they glanced at each other. They darted to the first room of the western wing and closed the door and didn't come out again. Yang Guo thought, "Rotten Taoists, you've probably tasted Li Mochou's pain before, that's why you're acting like this." Lu Wuxia quietly said, "My master is near, Sha Dan, what should we do?" Yang Guo said, "What shall we do? Let's run." As soon as he stretched out his hand to help her up, the ringing sound had arrived at the entrance of the inn. They heard Li Mochou say, "Guard the roof." They then heard the waiter say, "Angelic priestess, old senior's room, I." A thudding sound was heard as he landed on the floor. There wasn't another sound. He didn't know that Li Mochou hated people who mentioned the word old. What about when someone called her old senior? The fly whisk was waved and robbed the old waiter of his life. She asked another waiter, "There's a lame girl here, where is she?" That waiter was already scared out of his wits. He couldn't reply and just said, I. Li Mochou kicked him away with her left foot. Her right foot kicked open the door of the first room of the western wing. She went in and took a look. It was where the Taoists Shen and Jai were staying. Yang Guo thought, "It's best if we leave by the back door, although Hong Lingbo will see us, it won't be too much trouble." He quietly said, "Wifey, escape with me." Lu Wuxia looked at him and got up, thinking that if she was able to escape this time, then heaven must be looking out for her. As soon as the two got up, a guest from the table in the eastern corner came up to them and quietly said, "I'll lure the enemy away. Quickly think of a way to escape." That person sat in an out-of-sight place. Lu Wuxia and Yang Guo couldn't see his face. When the person was speaking, his face was turned away. As soon as they finished speaking, he immediately left through the main door. They could only see the person's back. That person wasn't tall. He wore a flowing blue-green gown. Yang Guo and Lu Wuxia looked at each other and then heard the bell ringing, going towards the north. Hong Lingbo called out, "Master, someone's escaping." A yellow blur came out of the room. Li Mochou dashed out of the inn and chased after the escapee. Lu Wuxia quickly said, "Quickly run." Yang Guo thought, "Li Mochou's lightness kung fu is extremely quick. She will be able to catch up with that person in just a second, and then she will return here. I won't be able to go that fast with Miss Lu on my back. We won't be able to run away." An idea dawned on him. He dashed into the first room of the western wing. He saw the Taoist Shen and Jai sitting by the bed. Their faces were still carrying the shocked look from before. There was no time to delay. Yang Guo didn't allow for the two to get up and ask questions as he dashed forward and moved his finger, sealing the two's pressure points, keeping them still. He called out, "Wifey, enter." Lu Wuxia entered the room. Yang Guo closed the doors and said, "Quickly take off your clothes." Lu Wuxia's face blushed and hissed, "Sha Dan, what are you saying now?" Yang Guo said, "It's up to you whether you want to take off your clothes or not, I'm going to." He took off his outer garment and put on Shen Jifen's Taoist gown and hat. Lu Wuxia then understood and said, "Fine, we'll pretend to be Taoists to fool my master." She stretched out her hand and undid her buttons. Her face turned red and she kicked Jai Qingsu. She said, "Close your eyes, you filthy Taoist." The two Taoists could not move but still had control of their 5 senses. They closed their eyes immediately. How would they dare to look at her? Yang Guo laughed and said, "What are you worried about? I helped you fix your ribs back into place. Haven't I already seen you?" As soon as he said this, he felt that he was impolite and had offended her. He couldn't stop himself from feeling a bit embarrassed. All Yang Guo had to do was to lower his head and move away, but he was in a trance. A slap came, and he was heavily struck on the left cheek. Lu Wuxia thought that she could never have hit him in a million years. Still, she didn't hold back. She felt apologetic. She laughed and said, "Sha Dan, does it hurt? Who told you to speak such crap?" Yang Guo touched his cheek and laughed. He turned around. Lu Wuxia changed into the Taoist gown and laughed. "Take a look. Don't I look like a young Taoist?" Yang Guo said, "I can't see, so I don't know." Lu Wuxia said, "Sha Dan, turn around." Yang Guo turned around and saw her Taoist gown was flowing. It showed off her figure even better. He was about to say something when Lu Wuxia gave a grunt and pointed to the bed, and saw a Taoist's head sticking out of the covers. It was the Taoist whose fingers had been cut off by her, Pai Quangshuan. All along he had been lying on the bed resting. When he saw Lu Wuxia enter, he immediately hid his head under the covers. The two of them were preoccupied with changing and didn't notice him. Lu Wuxuang said, he. She wanted to say he saw me changing but couldn't say the words. At this time the donkey's bell was heard. Yang Guo listened and knew that Li Mochou had taken the donkey back. When the guest in blue-green rode the donkey, the bell's ringing was scattered. When Li Mochou rode her donkey, though she rode it fast, the bell's ringing was ordered. An idea came. He picked up Pai Guangshuan and sealed his pressure point at the same time. He opened the compartment underneath the bed and placed him in there. It's cold in the north. On winter nights the bed will be warmed by a fire underneath it. It was now summer. There was no need to light a fire, but there was ash and coal beneath. Pai Guangshuan's face was covered with gray ash. The ringing sound of the bell stopped. Li Mochou had come back to the inn. Yang Guo said to Lu Wuxuang, "Sleep in the bed." Lu Wuxuang's brows raised and said, "A smelly Taoist has slept there. It's dirty. How can I sleep in it?" Yang Guo said, "It's up to you." As he said this, he stuck Shen Jifen underneath the bed as well and unsealed Jai Qingsu's pressure point at the same time. Though Lu Wuxuang felt that the bed and covers were dirty, she thought about how venomous her master was, so she got into the bed, facing the wall. As soon as she pretended to sleep, Li Mochou kicked open the door and come to search the room for a second time. Yang Guo took a teacup and lowered his head, drinking tea, his left hand covering the fatal pressure point on Jai Qingsu's back. Li Mochou saw that there were still 3 Taoists. Jai Qingsu's face was gray and was shaking. Li Mochou laughed and searched the second room. When she searched the room for the first time, she had studied the faces of the 3 Taoists, carefully afraid that Lu Wuxuang had disguised herself as one of them. She didn't take a closer look the second time. That night, Li Mochou and her disciples searched the town's inns, disturbing everyone. Yang Guo and Lu Wuxuang lay on the bed with their heads together. He smelt her womanly scent and was happy. Lu Wuxuang had many thoughts. She felt that Yang Guo was an extremely strange person if one said he was a Sha Dan. He was extremely clever if one said he was intelligent. He would act mad and crazy. She lay on the bed not daring to move, thinking that Sha Dan would definitely try to hug her. What would she do then? A while passed, but there was no movement from Yang Guo. She was actually disappointed. She smelt the manly scent of Yang Guo and was captivated by it. Time passed as she slowly fell asleep. When Yang Guo woke up, the sky was bright. He saw Jai Qingsu in deep sleep across the table. Lu Wuxuang was quiet. Her cheeks were rosy, her red lips slightly apart. He couldn't stop himself from being moved and thought, "If I lightly kiss her, she won't know." He's a young man who is experiencing his first awakenings of desire, Qing Du Chu Kai. He had never been close to a girl before, and right now he was at his most emotional state. He thought about the time when he was fixing her ribs and saw her naked breasts. It was even harder for him to resist. Yang Guo moved his head forward, wanting to kiss her on the lips. Before the lips met, he smelt a fragrant scent. His heart stirred, his blood rushed, then her brows crinkled. She seemed to still feel the pain of her broken ribs in her dreams. When Yang Guo saw her face like this, he immediately remembered Xiao Longnu, and then remembered the oath he swore. "I will only have Gugu in my heart in my lifetime, if my heart changes. There will be no need for Gugu to kill me. When I see her face, I will kill myself." He broke out in a cold sweat, and 2 slapping sounds were heard. He had slapped himself heavily across his cheeks and leapt off the bed. This woke up Lu Wuxuang. She opened her eyes and asked, "Sha Dan, what are you doing?" Yang Guo was feeling embarrassed and guilty. He mumbled, "Nothing, it's just a mosquito biting my face." Lu Wuxuang remembered how she slept with him last night. Her face suddenly turned red. She lowered her head and gently said, "Sha Dan, Sha Dan." Her voice carried a soft and caring tone. After a while, she raised her head and asked, "Sha Dan, how come you know the ancient tomb's beauty fist technique?" Yang Guo said, "When I dream at night, many beautiful women and minks came and taught me a stance. That's how I know." Lu Wuxuang gave a humph sound. She knew that he wouldn't answer anything about it if she asked again. Just as she was about to change the subject, she suddenly heard the ringing sound of Li Mochou's donkey. They headed in a northwest direction and then returned. Li Mochou thought about how the 5 poison codex was in Lu Wuxuang's hands. Another day without the book meant another day of danger. She didn't dare to waste any time. Before the sky became bright, she rode her donkey and searched everywhere nearby. Yang Guo said, "When she can't find us, she will leave. It's a pity that you're hurt and can't move much. Otherwise, we would steal a pair of horses and gallop for 1 day and 1 night. How would she be able to catch up then?" Lu Wuxuang angrily said, "You're not hurt. Why don't you go and steal a horse and gallop for a day and night?" Yang Guo thought, "This girl takes everything to heart. I just said something without thinking, and she got angry. But he wanted to see her angry expression and wanted to anger her further and said, "If it weren't for you begging me to take you to Jiangnan, I would have long gone." Lu Wuxuang was furious and said, "Just go. Sha Dan, just looking at you makes me angry. Just go and die by yourself." Yang Guo laughed and said, "Huh, I'll miss you if you die." He was afraid that Lu Wuxuang was going to get angry for real and aggravate her injury, so he laughed and exited the room. He found an ink block and returned to the room. He placed the ink block in a basin of water and rubbed it about, and then suddenly he touched Lu Wuxuang's face. Lu Wuxuang wasn't prepared for this hand coming towards her and touching her face. She scolded, "Rotten Sha Dan, bastard Sha Dan." She then saw him take out a pile of ash from underneath the bed. He smeared the ash and brushed the water on his face. His face was dirty and unsightly, as if his face was full of pimples and boils. She then understood, "Although I've changed into Taoist clothes, my face hasn't changed. If my master catches up with me, how could she not recognize me?" She then smeared the ink water over her face. Girls naturally love to make themselves as beautiful as possible. Although she was smearing ink water, she applied it as if she was applying makeup. The two finished with their disguises. Yang Guo stretched out his leg underneath the bed and unsealed the two Taoists' pressure points. Lu Wuxuang saw that Yang Guo didn't even take a look, and after some kicks, the two Taoists made a relieved grunt. She was secretly in awe of him and thought, "That Sha Dan's kung fu is 10 times better than mine." But she didn't show any sign of this and instead kept on scolding him, as if she thought nothing of him. Yang Guo went to the market to look for a cart, but the market was too small. There were no carts for rent. He could only buy 2 horses. That day, Lu Wuxuang's injury had eased. Both of them rode on the horses and slowly went southeast. They rode for a few hours. Yang Guo was afraid that she was tired, so he helped her down off the horse and sat on a rock and rested. He remembered how he almost treated Lu Wuxuang with disrespect. Although he felt that treating Lu Wuxuang with disrespect wasn't anything serious, he would have done something disrespectful to his gu. He was a bastard. He was insulting and cursing himself when Lu Wuxuang suddenly asked, "Sha Dan, why aren't you talking to me?" Yang Guo smiled and didn't reply. He suddenly thought of something and asked, "AI, ya crap, I'm so dumb." Lu Wuxuang said, "You are dumb?" Yang Guo said, "When we disguised ourselves, the 3 Taoists saw us. If they tell your master, won't that be a disaster?" Lu Wuxuang pursed her lips and smiled, then said, "Those 3 Taoists rode past us long ago and my master is still behind us. What's wrong with you, Sha Dan? What were you in a daze about? You didn't even see them ride past us." Yang Guo gave an ah sound and laughed. Lu Wuxuang felt that his laugh had a hidden meaning behind it. She remembered the words she just said. "What's wrong with you, Sha Dan? What were you in a daze about?" She couldn't stop her face from turning red. At this time, they suddenly heard the neigh of a horse. Lu Wuxuang turned around and saw 2 beggars approaching from around the corner. Yang Guo took a look and saw a head peep out and withdraw back behind the edge of the mountain. It was Shen Zhifen and Jai Qingsu. He thought, so the 3 Taoists told the beggar clan that we've dressed up as Taoists. He held up his hand and said, "Beggar masters, if you want to ask for food or money, old Taoist here has already given as much as he could today. You'll have to leave empty-handed." One of the beggars had a voice like an overwhelming bell. He said, "Even if you shaved your head and disguised yourselves as a monk or a nun, you won't be able to get past my eyes and ears. Don't play dumb anymore, just get it over with and come with us to see the elder and sort this matter out." Yang Guo thought, "Those 2 old beggars have 8 pockets on their back. I'm afraid that they might be very skilled." The 2 beggars were 8 band members. They saw that the 2 of them were at most 20 years old, yet they managed to defeat 4 band 4 members and 3 band 5 members. They thought that there must something strange going on here. Both sides were suspicious of each other. In the northwest, the ringing of a gold bell could be heard. Ding-ling, ding-ling. It was light and swift. It was pleasant to the ear. Lu Wuxuang thought, crap. Although I have disguised my face, I had to bump into those 2 old beggars at this time. If they've uncovered my identity, how will I be able to escape from my master? Oh crap, I'm really out of luck this time. There had to be someone with nothing better to do with themselves once they've been fed. They just had to come and find me. In a short while, the bells ringing became closer. Yang Guo thought, I won't be able to beat her. The only thing I can do is to quickly find a path to escape on. He said, You 2 aren't begging for alms and you won't come close, just let us pass. As he said this, he took large steps forward. The 2 beggars saw that his steps weren't solid. It seems that he didn't know any martial arts. Each one stretched out their arm and grabbed him. Yang Guo chopped out his right hand and clashed with the two palms. The three palms pulled back and each one took 3 steps back. The two 8-band beggar clan members have practiced martial arts for tens of years. Their internal energy was profound. In the world of Jianghu, there were few who could match them. In terms of Kung Fu foundation, they were ahead of Yang Guo, but when it comes to the mastery of exquisite stances, they weren't a match for him. Yang Guo borrowed strength to use strength and disperse the two's palms, but if he wanted to dash past them, it would be impossible. The three of them were secretly startled. At this time, Li Mochou and her disciple had arrived at the scene. Hong Lingbo called out, "Hey, beggar Taoist, have you seen a lame girl pass by here?" The two beggars had a high status in the world of Wulin. When they heard Hong Lingbo question them like this, they became angry, but the beggar clan had strict rules. The members mustn't get into feuds with others as they pleased, so the two just replied. No, Li Mochou's eyes were sharp and saw the back of Lu Wuxia. She was suspicious and thought, "I think I've seen those two before." She saw the four facing each other, their weapons braced as if they were about to fight. She thought she should stand aside and see what happens. Yang Guo glanced over and saw that she had a wry smile on her face, standing by watching the battle. He had a thought, "I've got it, and if I do this, I'll erase her suspicions." He turned around and went over to Hong Lingbo to ask her something. He disguised his voice and said, "Greetings, Taoist friend." Hong Lingbo returned the greeting. He said, "This Taoist was just passing by when these two evil beggars started to cause trouble, wanting to fight me. This Taoist has not got weapon. I hope you will lend me a weapon in respect of Lao Jun." As he said this, he made another bow. Hong Lingbo saw that his face was black and ugly, but he was respectful and modest. He referred to the Taoist's Tai Shang Lao Jun. It didn't seem right to reject his request, so she held out her sword and glanced at her master. She saw that she was nodding her head, and so handed the sword to him. Yang Guo bowed as he received the long sword, the tip pointing to the ground. He said, "If this Taoist can't fight off the enemy, I hope that Taoist friend here will look upon the fact that we are people of religion and will assist me." Hong Lingbo raised her eyebrows and gave a humph sound without replying. Yang Guo turned around and loudly said to Lu Wuxia, "Apprentice brother, sit by the side and watch and don't move. I'm going to teach the beggar clan beggars the skills of our Quanjin sect." Yang Guo was afraid that the two beggars would speak and reveal who Lu Wuxia was, so he raised his sword and dashed forward, calling out, "Come, come, come. I'll fight two by myself." But Lu Wuxia was concerned. "Sha Dan doesn't know that my master has fought Quanjin sect on many occasions. How would she not be able to recognize the stances of the Quanjin sect? There are many Taoist sects in the world, Zhengyi, Dao, Tei. They are all good choices for our cover. Why the hell did he pick Quanjin?" The two beggars heard him say, "From the Quanjin sect," and were alarmed. The both called out, "Are you really from Quanjin sect?" "You and?" Yang Guo didn't allow them to mention Lu Wuxia and thrust his sword forward, separately attacking the stomachs of the two. It was Quanjin's Dai Chuan sword skills. The two beggars' status was high. They could gang up and fight a young boy like him, but Yang Guo's stance came out extremely quick. They had to attack together with their sticks. As the metal rods were raised, Yang Guo's sword darted through the gap and aimed for their chests. The two beggars could never have predicted that his sword skills were extremely quick. They quickly retreated. Yang Guo didn't hold back. He kept on applying the pressure. In a flash, he had unleashed 18 swords. Every stance had 2 intentions. When the sword comes out, it was one stance. But within it was artifice. The sword stance separated into 2. This was Quanjin's one sword into 3 distinctions. Yi Jian Hua San Qing, technique. Every stance can be made into 3. Every stance that Yang Guo threw out, the beggars moved back 3 steps. After the 18 stances had been unleashed, the beggars had not even attacked back once, and they had retreated back a total of 54 steps. The Kung Fu of the Jade Heart Manual was designed to counter Quanjin's Kung Fu. Before Yang Guo practiced the Jade Heart Manual, he practiced the Kung Fu of the Quanjin sect. But because he had not practiced enough and it wasn't refined enough, he wasn't able to do one sword into 3 distinctions. But he was good enough to turn it into 2 distinctions. Li Mochou saw that the young Taoist's sword skills were refined. She couldn't help being shocked and thought, "No wonder Quanjin's name is so famous. There are able people from the sect. In 10 years' time, how will I be able to beat him? It looks the mantle of the Quanjin sect is going to fall into his hands in the future." If she fought with Yang Guo, she would know that although the stances were real on the outside, underneath it was the ancient tomb's Kung Fu, but from its appearance, it was hard to distinguish between the two. Yang Guo had learned the Quanjin song from Zhao Zhaijing and practiced it afterwards, and so his Quanjin kung fu wasn't completely a fake. Lu Wuxuang and Hong Lingbo looked on, dazzled. Yang Guo thought, if I slow down and allow the two beggars to talk, we'll be finished. Once the 18 stances had passed, the long sword quickly turned around and attacked the two beggars' backs, another set of two distinctions. The two beggars quickly turned around to attack. Yang Guo didn't allow the metal rods and the sword to collide. He quickly darted behind the two's backs. The beggars turned around. Yang Guo darted behind the beggars again. He knew that if it came to a real kung fu contest, he would not be able to handle one beggar, let alone two. He utilized his lightness kung fu and circled around the two beggars. In the Quanjin sect, as soon as one has refined their kung fu to a high level, they will practice lightness kung fu so later on they will be able to use it when practicing the Big Dipper formation. Although Yang Guo is now using the steps of Quanjin's kung fu, but his breathing and circulation are from the formulae of the Jade Heart Manual. The ancient tomb's lightness kung fu was second to none in the world. As soon as he used it, the two skilled beggar clan fighters were not able to catch up. They saw him moving like lightning, a white blur, the sword piercing forwards. If he wanted to kill them, even if 20 beggars were here, he would be able to kill them. The two beggars quickly turned around and waved their rods in defense. Right now, they weren't able to defend against the incoming stances. They used all their strength in defense and hoped that heaven was on their side. They ran around like this for around 10 loops. The two beggars were dizzy and dazed, their feet rapid. They felt that they were about to faint. Li Mochou chuckled and said, "Hey, my beggar clan friends, I'll teach you a method. Stand back to back so you won't have to keep on turning around." With this pointer, the two beggars were filled with joy. They were about to follow this method when Yang Guo thought, "Crap, if this happened, I'm going to lose." He stopped circling them, two stances in one, as the sword was thrust forwards aiming for their backs. The two beggars heard the wind sound from the sword. They weren't able to use their rods to block it, so advanced forward. As soon as they took a step the stance arrived, they were shocked and quickly hurried out of the way. How could they have predicted that Yang Guo's sword was like a shadow? No matter how fast they ran away, the sword remained behind their backs. The two's steps slowed, their backs were pierced by the sword. The two beggars knew that Yang Guo didn't want to kill them, otherwise all he had to do was just add an ounce more strength. The sword would have moved an inch further. Wouldn't the sword have gone through their chests? But they still didn't dare to slow their steps. The three used their energy, and in a flash they had moved over 2 miles, leaving Li Mochou and the others behind. Yang Guo suddenly sped up and dashed in front of the two. He laughed and said, "Walk slowly, be careful of tripping." The two threw out their rods at the same time. Yang Guo stretched out his left hand and held onto one of the rods. At the same time, he extended the flat side of his sword and hit the metal rod to the left. His left palm opened and held the two rods. The two beggars felt something was wrong and quickly distributed their kai. Yang Guo's internal energy wasn't a match for theirs. He didn't dare to try and match them and swept the long sword across. If the two beggars didn't let go, their 8 fingers would be slashed off immediately. They could only let go and jump back. Their faces had an expression of embarrassment. Not being able to win and using such a way to escape may have been going too far. Yang Guo said, "My sect and your clan have always been friends. Please don't believe what others say, my friends. Every event has its source, the ancient tombs, Scarlet Serpent deity. Li Mochou is over there. Why aren't you questioning her?" The two beggars did not know Li Mochou but knew that she was ruthless and vindictive. When they heard Yang Guo say this, they both shivered and said at the same time, "Is this true?" Yang Guo said, "Why should I lie? That witch chased this Taoist until I had nowhere else to run. That's why I had to fight with you too." As he said this, he raised the metal rods and politely gave them back to the beggars. He said, "It is well known what objects the Scarlet Serpent deity always carries with her. Haven't you two heard about this?" One of the beggars understood and said, "Yes, she holds a fly whisk. Her donkey has a golden bell. The woman is in yellow, isn't she?" Yang Guo smiled and said, "Correct, correct. The girl who used the silver saber to hurt your clan member is her disciple." He then made his voice slightly deeper and said, "I'm afraid that it's ominous." "It ominous?" The beggar with the voice like an overwhelming bell was impatient and asked, "What are you afraid of?" Yang Guo said, "Ominous, ominous." The beggar urgently asked, "What's ominous?" Yang Guo replied, "Li Mochou is notorious in Wulin. Everyone is afraid of her. Your clan may be powerful, but no one is her match. Since it was a disciple of hers who injured one of your members, it would be best to leave it." He angered that beggar. The beggar raised his metal rod and said, "Huh, I don't care if she's the scarlet serpent deity or lizard deity. I must fight her today." As he said this, he headed back towards the path. The other beggar was more cautious, thinking how they could not overcome a young man if they incurred the wrath of the scarlet serpent deity. Are they not signing their death warrants? He held the other beggar's arm and said, "There's no need to rush, let's go back and plan this first." He made a salute to Yang Guo with one hand and said, "Please, can we have the pleasure of knowing your name?" Yang Guo smiled and said, "My surname is Sa, first name's Huazi. Hope we'll meet again." He made a bow and turned around, hurrying back to the others. The two beggars mumbled, Sa Huazi, I have never heard this name. This person's skills are excellent at such a young age." One of the beggars suddenly leaped up and cursed, "Scoundrel animal." The other beggar asked, "What?" The beggar replied, "He's called Sa Huazi, it means kill beggars. Kill a beggar has the same pinyin as Sa Huazi. We've been insulted without knowing it." Though the two cursed, they didn't dare to return to finish this matter with him. Yang Guo laughed on the inside. He quickly returned and saw Li Mochou on top of the horse looking to the side, revealing how anxious she was. As soon as she saw Yang Guo, her spirits immediately raised. She quickly met him on the horse and quietly said, "Sha Dan, leaving behind me, that was so thoughtful." Yang Guo smiled and offered the long sword back to Hong Lingbo with the handle end facing towards her. He bowed and said, "Thank you for the sword." Hong Lingbo stretched out her hand to receive it. Yang Guo was about to turn around when Li Mochou suddenly said, "Wait." She saw that the young Taoist was skilled. She thought that if she let him go now, he would become a problem in the future. While his kung fu was still lower than hers, she would get rid of the potential problem now. As soon as Yang Guo heard the word, "Wait," he knew something was wrong. He lowered the sword a few inches into Hong Lingbo's hand and immediately took his hand away. Hong Lingbo could only take the handle of the sword and smiled. She said, "The young Taoist has some fierce skills." Li Mochou originally wanted to anger him into attacking and kill him in one stroke with her fly whisk. But now he did not have a weapon. She was of a high status and so could not use her weapon to harm him. She flashed her fly whisk to one side and asked, "Which of the Quanjin 7 masters is your master?" Yang Guo smiled and said, "I'm Wang Qingyang's disciple." He had no good feelings towards the Quanjin sect. He had no respect for them. Although Qiu Chuji treated him fairly well, he was only with him for a short while, but before he left, he was strictly scolded by him. He knew he didn't mean any harm, but in his heart he was still angry. When he remembered Hao Datung and Zhao Zhaijing, he became even angrier. In the ancient tomb, he had practiced the important aspects of the 9-yin manual left by Wang Qingyang, so technically he could say that he was his disciple. But according to his age, he could only be the disciple of Taoists in Zhao Zhaijing's and Zhen Zhaibing's generation. When Li Mochou saw that his skills weren't weak and asked him which one of the Quanjin 7 masters was his master, it was holding him in a lofty light. If Yang Guo replied Qiu Chuji or one of the others, Li Mochou would have believed him. But he didn't want to be a generation lower than the Taoist who killed Grandma's son, Hao Datung, so he said Wang Qingyang. Wang Qingyang was the person who founded the Quanjin sect. In his lifetime, he had only taken in 7 disciples. Everyone knew this in the Wulin world. When this young Taoist was born, Wang Qingyang had left the world long ago. Li Mochou thought, "This ugly freak doesn't know how high the sky is or how deep the earth is, and he doesn't know who I am. How dare he talk such nonsense in front of me?" She then thought, how could a Quanjin Taoist use their founder for a joke? And how could they dare to say the words Wang Qingyang? But if he isn't a disciple of Quanjin, then how come each of his stances were from Quanjin? Yang Guo saw that although she had a smile on her face, she was frowning and she was in deep thought. He thought about the day when he pretended to be a farmer to trick Hong Lingbo, and in the tomb they had exchanged blows. He couldn't let them find out who he really was through his words, so without delay he carried on. He raised his hands in respect. He turned around and leapt onto the horse and was about to gallop away. Li Mochou floated over in front of his horse and said, "Come down, I have something to say to you." Yang Guo said, "I know what you want to ask me. You want to ask me, have I seen a pretty girl who is lame in her left foot, isn't that it? And where has she taken your book?" Li Mochou was shocked and calmly said, "Yes, you are clever. Where is the book?" Yang Guo said, "Just now my apprentice brother and I were resting by the side of the road. We saw that girl fighting with 3 beggars. One of the beggars suffered a slash from the girl, but when the other 2 beggars joined in, she wasn't a match for them. Eventually, she was captured by them." Li Mochou was always calm no matter what. But when she thought about Lu Wuxia being caught by the beggars and her 5 poison codex falling into their hands, she couldn't stop herself from showing signs of being alarmed. Yang Guo saw that the lie worked and continued. One of the beggars fished out a book from the girl's pockets. She wouldn't give it to them and suffered disrespect from him. Lu Wuxia glanced at him and thought, "Fine Sha Dan, talking rubbish about me, you think I won't do anything to you?" Yang Guo knew that she was frightened but deliberately asked her, "Apprentice brother, doesn't it get people mad? That girl was touched all over the place by the beggars and suffered great insults, didn't she?" Lu Wuxia hung her head down and gave a grunt. As he said this, there were the sounds of horse hoofs around the hill. A crowd of horses and people came up. It was a group of Mongolian soldiers. Once the Jin were overthrown, everything north of the Mai River was under the control of the Mongolians. Li Mochou didn't care about the soldiers, but she was in a rush to find out the whereabouts of Lu Wuxia. She didn't want anything to delay her, so she stood aside, feeling the ground shaking as over 100 Mongolian soldiers escorting an official passed by. The Mongolian official wore a bright garment. A bow hung from his waist. His horse riding technique was excellent, and he exuded an air of calmness as he rode past. Once the soldiers passed, Li Mochou wiped the dust away from her body using her fly whisk. Every time the fly whisk waved, Lu Wuxia's heart missed a beat. She knew if the fly whisk was waved at her and not the dust, her head would have split open immediately. After she finished cleaning herself up, she asked, "And then?" Yang Guo said, "The beggars took the girl and headed north. This young Taoist couldn't just stand by and tried to interfere, and 2 of the beggars stayed behind to fight with me." Li Mochou nodded her head and smiled. She said, "Good, thank you. My name is Li Mochou. People in Jianghu call me the Scarlet Serpent Deity, and some call me the Serpent Demon. Have you heard my name before?" Yang Guo shook his head and said, "I have never heard of you. Miss, with your beauty you are like a deity. How can you be a demon?" Li Mochou was 30, but she had profound internal strength. Her skin was soft and tender. Her face had no wrinkles, and one could mistake her for a 20-year-old. She had always regarded herself as beautiful, and when she heard him praising her like that, she was pleased. She fluttered her fly whisk and said, "You joked with me, saying that you are the disciple of Wang Qingyang. I should make you suffer and then kill you. Since you've said this, I'm going to teach you a lesson with my fly whisk." Yang Guo shook his head and said, "That won't do, that won't do. This young Taoist cannot fight with someone in a lower generation than he is." Li Mochou said, "You are about to die and you still joke. How am I in a lower generation than you?" Yang Guo said, "My master is Elder Qingyang. He is in the same generation as your ancestor. How am I not in an older generation than you? You are just a pretty young girl. An old man can't bully you." Li Mochou gave a wry smile and said to Hong Lingbo, "Let him borrow the sword again." Yang Guo waved his hand and said, "That won't do, that won't do, Before he finished his words, Hong Lingbo pulled out the sword from its sheath. A ting sound was heard. Her hand holding only the handle, the blade remained in the sheath. She was startled, but then understood. When Yang Guo returned the sword, he had done something to it. He broke the sword, but kept the handle intact. As soon as someone applied some force to the sword, it immediately broke. Li Mochou's face changed color. Yang Guo said, "Originally, I didn't want to fight pretty girls who are beneath me, but since you are forcing me to fight, then so be it. I'll face 3 stances of your fly whisk empty-handed. Let's make it clear first. As long as you can receive my 3 stances, then I'll let you go. But once the 3 stances are over, you can't trouble me anymore." In this present situation, he knew that he must use force, otherwise he won't be able to get out of this situation. But if they really fight, he won't be a match for her. So he acted like a senior and made her promise that she will only use 3 stances and not more. He was not her match anyway, so it didn't matter if he had a weapon or not. Hopefully she would not use her most lethal fly whisk stances. How could Li Mochou not understand his intentions, she thought. "You think you can receive 3 of my stances?" she said. "Fine, senior, let junior experience your skills." Yang Guo said, "You're too kind," but suddenly he saw a yellow blur. There were traces of the fly whisk everywhere. This stance of Li Mochou's is called "No Holes That Can't Be Penetrated." Wu Kong Bu Ru, attacking the enemy's bones all over their body. Although this is one stance, the threads were all over the place, so in one stance it included tens of stances, attacking all the body's main pressure points. She had seen him fight with the beggars and saw that his sword skills were refined. He wasn't a weak opponent. Hurting him in 3 stances was not going to be easy, so she used the techniques that she was most proud of. 3 without hands. San Wu San Bu Shu. She had invented these 3 stances. Even Xiao Longnu had never seen these stances before. When Yang Guo saw this, he jumped back in shock. There was actually no defense to this stance. Moving to the left and right would result in one's pressure points to be sealed. Moving forward would result in the pressure points on the back being harmed. Only fighters who were much more skillful than she was could force her back. Attacking her front ruthlessly would force her to use her fly whisk to defend. Yang Guo did not have this ability. In this urgent situation, he flipped around, his head below his legs, and used the skill that Aoyang Feng taught him, reversal of the veins. His pressure points were all closed. He felt all his pressure points ache a little, and then nothing more. He quickly flipped over and gave out a flying kick. Li Mochou had seen that she had hit many of his pressure points, but he still had the ability to counter-attack. She was shocked and followed with a stance of penetrate everywhere. Wu Xiu Bu Zhai. This stance attacked all the pressure points on his sides. Yang Guo's head was on the ground. He stretched out his left hand to seal her right knee's central pressure point. Li Mochou was even more shocked and leapt away. The three without hand, technique's third stance, stop at nothing, was immediately used. This stance does not aim to seal pressure points. Instead, it attacked the eyes, throat, stomach, the groin, and all the places that are soft and delicate. That's why it's called stop at nothing. It was ruthless and showed no respect towards the opponent. When she refined this skill, she did not know that there were people who knew how to fight upside down. When she rushed out in this stance, she used it as she normally would. But there was no way the attack hit the eyes. It struck the leg. Where it attacked the throat, it struck the lower thigh. Where it attacked the stomach, it struck the upper thigh. Where it attacked the groin, it struck the chest. It aimed for the soft points but struck the hard, and the stance was not effective at all. At the second Mount Hua competition, Aoyang Feng reversed his veins and bit down on Huang Yeashi's finger. When one reverses their veins, Kai is distributed through their lips. The mouth will open and close. The intent to bite someone is automatically created. In the body, nothing can compare with the strength of teeth biting down. The teeth can shatter and tear things that hands can't. Because of this, although Yang Guo's internal strength was weaker than Li Mochou's, once his teeth bit down on the fly whisk, he was able to pull it from her hands. This move shocked Lu Wuxuang and Hong Lingbo, both of them called out in surprise at the same time. Li Mochou was also shocked, but she didn't show any fear. Her palms lightly came out. She was using her diving serpent palm and jumping forward to snatch back her fly whisk. She was about to hit out with her palms when she suddenly called out, "What? It's you! Where's your master?" Yang Guo's face had been covered in dirt, but after a series of quick flips, some of the dirt was brushed off, revealing half of his face. At the same time, Hong Lingbo recognized Lu Wuxuang and called out, "Master, it's apprentice sister." Before, Lu Wuxuang had dared not to face Li Mochou and Hong Lingbo. When Yang Guo and Li Mochou were fighting, she was concentrating on watching the fight and forgot about hiding her face from Hong Lingbo. Yang Guo's left foot touched the ground lightly and flew onto Li Mochou's donkey. At the same time, his left hand flicked out. A jade bee needle was shot at the head of Hong Lingbo's donkey. Li Mochou was furious and flew over to Yang Guo, who flew away from the saddle and flipped the fly whisk around. A poo sound was heard as he struck the donkey on the head and called out, "Wifey, quickly take your husband away." He leapt on the back of the horse and he waved the fly whisk madly behind him. Lu Wuxuang immediately spurred the horse on. Once Li Mochou utilized her lightness kung fu, she could catch up to four-legged animals that were within half li or so. But after being shocked by Yang Guo's strange stances, she didn't dare to chase too closely. She just used her trapping hand kung fu to snatch back her fly whisk. On her fourth stance, 3 of the fingers on her left hand managed to grab hold of the threads of the fly whisk. She turned her hand and pulled. Yang Guo couldn't hold on and the fly whisk flew out of his hand. Hong Lingbo's donkey had been struck with the jade bee needle. It suddenly went mad and it rushed up to Li Mochou and started to bite. Li Mochou shouted, "Lingbo, what are you doing?" Hong Lingbo said, "The donkey is resisting." She pulled the reins with all her strength, causing the donkey to have a mouthful of blood. Suddenly the donkey's legs became soft and it fell over. Hong Lingbo leapt up and called out, "Master, let's chase after them." But by then Yang Guo and Lu Wuxuang were half a li away. They weren't able to catch up. Lu Wuxuang and Yang Guo rode hurriedly for a while. She turned around and didn't see her master chasing after them and said, "Sha Dan, my chest really hurts. I can't stand it anymore." Yang Guo leapt off the horse and placed his ear against the ground. There weren't any sound of footsteps behind, and he said, "There's no need to be afraid. Let's go slowly." The two then carried on normally. Lu Wuxuang sighed and said, "Sha Dan, how did you manage to take my master's fly whisk?" Yang Guo said. "I threw out some words of praise which pleased her, and so she gave the fly whisk to me. Old man didn't feel right taking the young girl's things, so I gave it back to her." Lu Wuxia said, "Huh, why was she pleased? She thought you were handsome." As she said this, she blushed. Yang Guo laughed and said, "She saw that I was an interesting fool, that's why." Lu Wuxia said, "Crap, what's so interesting about you?" The two traveled slowly for a while, but they were afraid that Li Mochou would catch up, so they rode fast. They did this slowing down and speeding up until it was dusk. Yang Guo said, "Wifey, if you want to save your little life, you'll have to endure the pain in your chest and ride throughout the night." Lu Wuxia said, "If you talk crap again, just see if I continue to pay attention to you." Yang Guo stuck out his tongue and said, "It's a pity that our horse is tired, another night of riding, and we could escape." It was now getting dark, but suddenly, the sound of horses could be heard ahead. Yang Guo was delighted and said, "Let's change horses." The two hurried on for about a mile and saw over 100 horses outside a village. It was the group of Mongolian soldiers that they had seen earlier. Yang Guo said, "Wait here, I'll go and take a look." He leapt down from the horse and headed towards the village. He saw a light coming from the window of a large house. Yang Guo darted forward and looked inside. He saw a Mongolian official sitting in the room with his back facing the window. Yang Guo's mind suddenly lit up. If we're going to change horses, why not change people? He waited for a while and saw the Mongolian official stand up, walking up and down across the room. That man was about 30 years old. It was the official in bright clothing he had seen earlier in the day. He had an air about him. It appeared that his post wasn't low. Yang Guo waited until he turned his back and quietly opened the window and slipped in. The official heard a wind sound behind him. He took a step forward and raised his left hand for protection and turned around, and his 10 fingers like an eagle's claws came out ferociously. It was the lethal technique of the vigorous eagle claw stance. Yang Guo was slightly surprised by this. He didn't know that a Mongolian official would know some kung fu. He slanted his body and dodged past his hands. The official clawed out many times, but each time they were calmly dodged. That official had been under the tutelage of the Eagle Claw sect when he was younger. His kung fu was quite good, but after exchanging many stances with Yang Guo, he had no way of using his moves. Yang Guo saw that his hands were coming in ferociously once again. He suddenly leapt up. His left hand grabbed the man's left shoulder. His right hand grabbed the man's right. He circulated his kai through his arms and shouted, "Sit down!" The official's knees became weak and he sat down on the floor. His chest felt like he was being smothered. It seemed like a surge of blood was rushing up to his head. Yang Guo stretched out his hand and rubbed the pressure points on his chest. The official immediately felt his chest loosen. A breath of air was released and he slowly got up. He stared at Yang Guo, startled. After a few minutes, he asked, "Who are you? Why are you here?" Those two phrases in hand were spoken quite clearly. Yang Guo laughed and asked him some questions instead. "What is your name? What post do you hold?" The official's eyes lit up in anger. He was about to jump out at him again. Yang Guo ignored him and sat down on the seat that the official had previously sat on. The official's arms came out waving up and down, attacking ferociously. Yang Guo just waved out his hands without trying and didn't use any strength to neutralize his attacks. He said, "Hey, you've got a wound on your shoulder. It's better if you don't use any energy." The official was startled and said, "What wound?" His left hand rubbed his right shoulder. There was a slight pain there. He quickly stretched out his right hand and checked his left shoulder, and there was an identical pain. He had not moved his shoulders, so didn't notice the wounds. When he used his fingers to touch his shoulder, there was a small area that ached to the bone. The official was shocked. He quickly took off his garment and looked over his shoulder. He saw a red dot on his left shoulder, and there was a similar dot on his right. He understood, just know when Yang Guo held his shoulders, he had a concealed weapon in his hands and now had fallen into his scheme. He was startled and shocked. He shouted, "What weapon did you use? Does it have poison or not?" Yang Guo gave a wry smile and said, "You've learned martial arts, how come you don't know the rules? Large concealed weapons have no poison, small ones of course have." The official believed him, but hoped that he made it up to scare him. His face's expression seems to be convinced, but also seemed to be suspicious. Yang Guo smiled and said, "Your shoulder has fallen victim to my divine needle. Its poison deepens an inch every day. By the 6th day, the poison will have reached the heart. Then you'll be dead." The official wanted him to cure the poison, yet he didn't dare ask. In anger, he shouted, Since it has ended up like this, then this master is going to take you with me. He threw himself forward again. Yang Guo slipped past him. He took out 2 jade bee needles and waited until his claws came out again, the hands came out, he sent the needles into his palms. The official felt a pain in his palms and stopped. He raised his hands to take a look and saw a fine needle in his palms. He immediately felt his palms go numb. He was shocked and didn't dare to attack again. Another half-hour passed before he said, "Fine, I admit defeat." Yang Guo laughed out loud and asked, "What's your name?" The official replied, "My name is Yellow Jin. Can I have the honor of knowing the hero's name?" Yellow Jin told him everything. He was the Mongolians' prime minister, Yellow Chukai's son. Yellow Chukai aided Genghis Khan and Wuxia Tai Ojdai to take over many lands. His achievements were outstanding. That is why, although Yellow Jin was of a relatively young age, he held the high position of Bianliang Jinglu emissary, military governor of Bianliang City. He had come south to Henan to complete a mission. Yang Guo didn't know what kind of position this was. He just nodded his head and said, "Fine, fine." Yellow Jin said, "I don't know what I have done to disrespect the hero. Please forgive my ignorance. If the hero has an order, please say it." Yang Guo laughed and said, "You haven't done anything." He suddenly darted out of the window. Yellow Jin was shocked and called out, "Hero Yang," and ran to the window, but there was no trace of Yang Guo. Yellow Jin was troubled. "This person comes and goes as he pleases. I've fallen victim to his poison needles. What should I do?" He quickly took out the needles from his palm and felt the numbness in his palms and shoulders to begin to feel unbearable. In the midst of all this, the window opened. Yang Guo suddenly returned and the room had another person. It was Lu Wuxia. Yellow Jin said, "Ah, you've come back." Yang Guo pointed to Lu Wuxia and said, "She is my wifey, kowtow to her." Lu Wuxia shouted, "What did you say?" She turned her hand and gave him a slap. If Yang Guo wanted to avoid it, how would she be able to hit him? For an inexplicable reason, when he was slapped and scolded by her, he felt good. He didn't move, and a slapping sound was heard as his cheek was hit. Yellow Jin didn't know that these two always argued like this. He assumed that Lu Wuxia's kung fu was stronger than Yang Guo's. He stared in a daze at the two. Yang Guo rubbed his cheek and laughed at Yellow Jin. He said, "You've suffered the poison of my divine needles, but you won't die straight away. All you've got to do is listen to my orders, and then I'll heal you." Yellow Jin said, "I've always admired heroes and good men, but I have never seen people with such abilities. Today I have finally met someone worthy of this title. It is an honor. If Hero Yang doesn't tell me to live, I could still die with my eyes closed." These words maintained his high status, but praised the other at the same time. Yang Guo had never spoken with officials before, and he didn't know that they've all learned how to praise their superiors. The higher the official, the better they are at flattery without being obvious. The officials from Mongolia were rough and coarse people, but after they entered the Central Plains, they learned the ways of the officials of China. After some words of praise, Yang Guo was pleased. He raised his finger and said, "Well, I didn't guess that you are a man of honor as well. Come, I'll immediately cure your poison." He then used a sucking metal stone to remove the needles from his shoulder and then applied the antidote to the wounds. Lu Wuxiang had never seen the jade bee needles before. She saw that the needles were as fine as hair, and it looked as though if one placed the needles on water, they will float. She thought, a gust of wind can blow that away. How can you use it as a concealed weapon? She was even more in awe of Yang Guo, but the words from her mouth said, "That type of evil weapon isn't honorable. Aren't you afraid of others laughing at you?" Yang Guo laughed and ignored her. He said to Yellow Jin, "The two of us want to rely on you, your honor, and be your attendants." Yellow Jin was startled and quickly said, "Hero Yang jokes with me. Whatever you want, just tell me." Yang Guo said, "I'm not joking. I really want to be your attendant, your honor." Yellow Jin thought, so the two want work for the government and gain something for themselves. He couldn't stop himself from being pleased. He gave a cough and returned to a serious face and said, "You've learned great martial arts. Working for our king will lead to great prospects." Yang Guo laughed and said, "You've got it all wrong. We are being chased by an extremely powerful foe. We can't beat her and want to disguise ourselves as your attendants to evade her." Yellow Jin was disappointed. His serious face loosened, then he chucked and said, "With your martial arts, who gives a care about enemies? If there are too many of them, I'll gather my troops and catch them and let you decide on what to do." Yang Guo said, "Even I can't beat them. There is no need for you worry about it, your honor. Quickly order your attendants to give us some clothes to change into." He said this casually, but there was a stern tone within his voice. Yellow Jin ordered his attendants to bring some clothes for them to change into. Yang Guo and Lu Wuxuang went to another room to change. Lu Wuxuang got a mirror and examined herself. The person in the mirror was dressed in bright clothes, their eyes sparkled. It looked like a handsome Mongolian general. She felt that this was going to be interesting. They left early next morning. Lu Wuxuang and Yang Guo were in a sedan chair lifted by attendants. Yellow Jin was still on horseback. Before noon, they heard the faint sounds of a ringing bell. From afar it came near, and it brushed past the crowd of people. Lu Wuxuang was delighted and thought, comfortably sitting here in the sedan chair resting my wound is an ideal situation. Sha Dan's mad idea has its good points. I'll let them carry me to Jiangnan. They traveled like this for 2 days and didn't hear the bell sounds of Li Mochou again. Li Mochou must have gone straight ahead without turning back. There were also no traces of the beggars and Taoists that were looking for Lu Wuxuang. By the 3rd day, they arrived at the Colt Dragon Stockade. This was an important trafficking point. Many towns and cities flourished around here. After supper, Yellow Jin entered Yang Guo's room and asked for martial arts advice. Words of flattery were said to Yang Guo, praising him highly. Yang Guo gave 1 or 2 pointers to him. Just as Yellow Jin was about to listen intently, an attendant rushed in and said, "Your Honor, our master has sent a letter here." Yellow Jin was delighted and said, "Fine, I'll come now." He was about to stand up and say goodbye to Yang Guo when he had a thought. If I open the letter in front of him and show that I don't treat him as an outsider, he'll definitely teach me with all his efforts. He then said to the attendant, "Send the messenger in." The attendant had a look of surprise on his face and said, That. Yellow Jin waved his hand and said, "Don't delay, and tell him to enter." The attendant said, "It's master himself." Yellow Jin's face fell and he said, "Why are you still wasting time? Quickly go." Before he finished, someone laughed from outside and entered and said, "Jinner, you couldn't have guessed that it was me." Yellow Jin was shocked and pleased. He quickly dashed forward. He said, "Father, why are you?" That man laughed and said, "Yes, I've come here in person." That person was Yellow Jin's father, the Mongolian Prime Minister Yellow Chukai. Yang Guo heard Yellow Jin call that man father, but didn't know how powerful that person was. He was under one person but above millions, the person with the most power in court, the Prime Minister. He saw that he wasn't very old, his face elegant. Within his air of authority was an air of peace. He couldn't stop himself from respecting this person. As soon as that person sat down on a chair, 2 other people entered. They greeted Yellow Jin and called him Big Brother. It was 1 male and 1 female. The male was around 23 or 4 years of age. The female was about the same age as Yang Guo. Yellow Jin was pleased and said, "Brother, sister, you are here as well." He said to his father, "Father, I didn't have a clue that you had left the court." Yellow Chukai nodded and said, "Yes, there is some important business that must be attended to. If I didn't do it myself, I wouldn't be able to relax." He looked at Yang Guo and the rest of the attendants, indicating that he wants them to leave. Yellow Jin was in a dilemma. He should tell his attendants to leave, but Yang Guo was a person you couldn't mess around with. His face had an expression of being unsure of what to do. Yang Guo knew what he was thinking. He laughed and exited the room by himself. Yellow Chukai was aware of Yang Guo. When he entered by himself, all the other attendants greeted and bowed to him except for one. The person did as he pleased and had a proud air. He couldn't stop himself from being wary and asked, "Who is that?" Yellow Jin was a high official. If he said who Yang Guo was in front of his brother and sister, he will have lost face. He answered ambiguously, "He is a friend that I made along the way. Father has made the trip to Henan personally. What is this about?" Yellow Chukai sighed. His face looked troubled and slowly explained everything. When Genghis Khan died, his 3rd son wuxia Tai Ojdai succeeded him. Wuxia Tai was the Khan for about 30 years before he too died. His son Guiyu Gayuk succeeded. Guiyu lost himself in drink and died just after 3 years of being the Khan. His queen Oghul Gamish took over the affairs of state. The queen trusted very few. The first generals and ministers caused chaos in the court. Yellow Chukai was a senior member of the court and was one of the people who founded the state. Whenever the queen made a wrong decision, he would speak up truthfully. The queen saw that he opposed her orders and of course was angry, but because he was a powerful minister and what he said was right, the queen could not take action lightly. Yellow Chukai knew that once he offended the queen, the 100 or so lives of his family would be in danger, and so he thought of a plan. He said that Henan in the south was not under control. A minister was needed to go down there and sort it out, and he nominated himself. The queen was delighted, thinking the further this person goes the better and she can avoid getting angry every day. So she agreed to the order. So Yellow Chukai took his second son Yellow Chi and daughter Yellow Yan to Henan. Officially he was down here to dissipate the unrest, but unofficially he was down here to avoid a disaster. Yang Guo went into another room and chatted and joked with Lu Wuxuang, but Lu Wuxuang turned away and ignored him. After getting no reply, Yang Guo crossed his knees, sat down, and meditated. Lu Wuxuang wasn't interested. She saw that he closed his eyes and didn't move for half a day and said, "Hey, Sha Dan, why are you meditating now?" Yang Guo didn't reply. Lu Wuxuang angrily said, "There is no need to rush your kung fu. Are you going to chat with me?" As she was about to move him with her hand, Yang Guo suddenly leapt up and quietly said, "There's someone on the roof." Plus, Lu Wuxuang didn't hear anything. She raised her head and looked up at the roof. She said, "Are you lying again?" Yang Guo said, "No, they're on the roof 2 buildings over." Lu Wuxuang didn't believe him. She laughed and quietly scolded him, "Sha Dan." She assumed that he was playing dumb. Yang Guo tugged her sleeve and quietly said, "Let's hide before your master finds us." When Lu Wuxuang heard the word master and her back broke out in a cold sweat and she followed him to the window. Yang Guo lifted his head to the west. Lu Wuxuang also lifted her head, and indeed she saw someone in black on the roof of the building 2 rooms over. It was now the middle of the night. There was no light from the moon and stars. If one didn't carefully examine the roof, it would be hard to spot anything. She admired him secretly. How did Sha Dan detect this? She knew that her master held herself very highly. When she moved at night, she would still wear her apricot yellow gown. She would never wear black. She bent over to Yang Guo's ear and whispered, "It's not master." As soon as the words were spoken, the person in black suddenly got up and flew across the roofs, arrived outside the window of the room that Yellow Chukai was in. She kicked open the window and leapt in holding a saber. She called out, "Yellow Chukai, I'm going to take you to hell along with me." It was a girl's voice. Yang Guo's heart shook. That girl's movements are extremely fast. Her skills are above Yellow Jin. His father is afraid that his life will be in danger. Lu Wuxuang called out, "Let's go." The two hurried to the scene and witnessed what was happening through the window. He saw that Yellow Jin was holding up a bench, moving back and forth, battling with the girl in black. The girl was young, but her saber techniques were vicious. The willow leaf saber in her hand was extremely sharp. A series of slashes hacked off the 4 legs of the bench. Yellow Jin saw he that wasn't going to hold her off and called out, "Father, run away." He then shouted, "Men, men." The girl threw out a kick. Yellow Jin was not prepared for it and was kicked in the waist. His body flipped as he fell onto the floor. The girl dashed forward and raised her saber above Yellow Chukai's head and slashed down. Yang Guo thought, "Oh no." Thinking that he should rescue that person first and then talk about it later, he held a jade bee needle and was about to shoot it out at the girl's wrist when he heard Yellow Chukai's daughter Yellow Yan called out, "This one mustn't have any manners." She chopped out at the girl's face with her right palm. Her left hand used empty hands, entering 100 blades, kung fu, to take her saber. Those 2 moves suited each other exquisitely. The girl moved her head to avoid the palm, and her wrist was held by Yellow Yan. She quickly threw out a kick. Yellow Yan had to move back. Her blade wasn't taken away. Yang Guo saw that the 2 girls' attacks were swift and quick and was slightly surprised. In a flash, the 2 had hacked and slashed, and 7 or 8 moves had passed. At that time, 10 guards burst into the room. When they saw the 2 girls fighting, they dashed forward. Yellow Jin said, "Wait, sister doesn't need your help." Yang Guo quietly said to Lu Wuxuang, "Wifey, those 2 girls' skills are better than yours." Lu Wuxuang was angered and threw out a palm. Yang Guo slipped away and laughed. He said, "Don't get angry, it's better to watch them fight." Lu Wuxuang said, "Tell me the truth, am I better or are those girls better?" Yang Guo quietly said, "1-on-1, the 2 girls have nothing on you. 2-on-1 based on kung fu only, you will lose. But they are too honest in their attacks. They can't compare with your tricks, ruthlessness, and viciousness, and so you would win." Lu Wuxuang was pleased and whispered, "What tricks, ruthlessness, and viciousness? That doesn't sound too nice. When it comes to trickery, no one can compare with Mr. Sha Dan." Yang Guo smiled and said, "Doesn't that mean you are Mrs. Sha Dan?" Lu Wuxuang gave a quiet grunt. They watched the 2 girls battle. Yellow Yan did not have a weapon, and after many tries still could not take the girl's saber away, and now she was forced to defend and evade with no way to attack. Yellow Chi said, "Sister, let me try." He slanted his body and moved forward. His right hand threw out 3 palms in succession. Yellow Yan stood by the wall, said, "Fine, let's watch you." After Yang Guo saw Yellow Chi's 3 stances, he couldn't stop himself from being slightly surprised. His left hand was planted on his waist, not moving. His right hand extended and pulled back. His feet didn't move. He was able to fend off the girl's saber. His stances were refined, and positioning accurate. He wasn't ordinary. Yang Guo thought, that person is exceedingly good. His skills looks like Quanjin, yet there are some things different. Lu Wuxia said, Sha Dan, his skills are much better than yours. Yang Guo was in a trance as he watched, and he didn't even hear what she had said. The young hero. Yellow Chi said, Sister, watch carefully. I'll hit her scholarly arm, Bei Ru, pressure point, and she will move her body and retreat. I'll follow this by hitting her big bone pressure point. She must raise her saber to attack. At this time, the attack must be fast, and then you'll be able to snatch her saber. The girl in black said, it won't be that easy. Yellow Chi said, it will be like that. As he said this, he used his right hand to attack her scholarly arm pressure point. This palm was sent out in a crisscross, blocking all her paths to the front, back, and right, leaving only a space to the left. If the girl wants to avoid his palm, she must retreat 2 steps. Yellow Chi nodded his head, and indeed, he did strike her big bone pressure point. The girl had always remembered, I mustn't raise my saber to counterattack. But in this situation, the only way to get any sort of advantage is to raise the saber and slash down. At that time, she didn't think for long. She raised her saber and slashed down. Yellow Chi said, just like that. Everyone thought he was going to snatch the saber away, but who would have thought that he would take his right arm back and put his hands together in his sleeve? The girl had not slashed down with her saber yet. When she saw his arms in his sleeves, she stopped momentarily. Yellow Chi suddenly stretched out his right arm. His 2 fingers held the saber's blade, and he lifted up. The girl could not hold on. Her saber was snatched away. After the crowd of people saw this great skill, they stood there for a while, the room quiet as though empty. The girl in black stood there without moving. Her face looked dejected. Everyone thought, Second Master hasn't made another move. He's giving her a chance to run away. If she doesn't escape, what does she want? Yellow Chi slowly moved away and said to Yellow Yan, she hasn't got a weapon now, fight with her again. Be a bit braver and be more aware of her palms and kicks. Yellow Yan stepped forward 2 steps and said, Wanyan Ping, we are giving you a chance to run, but you still remain here and keep forcing us to fight. Will you not give up today? Wanyan Ping did not reply, her head lowered in deep thought. Yellow Yan said, if you want to fight with me, then quickly get it over with. After she said this, she dashed forward and threw 2 fists towards her front. Wanyan Ping leapt back and said coldly, give back my saber. Yellow Yan was startled and said, my brother took away your weapon so we could have a fair fight. Why are you asking for your weapon? She said, fine. She took the willow leaf saber from her brother's hand and flung it towards her. A guard offered out his saber and said, third mistress, you use a weapon as well. Yellow Yan said no. But then she thought, I can't beat her empty-handed, we'll compete with sabers. She took the saber and tried out 2 slashes. The sword was a bit on the heavy side, but she could use it if she had to. Wanyan Ping's face was pale white. Her left hand raised her saber. Her right hand pointed at Yellow Chukai and said, Yellow Chukai, you helped the Mongols kill my parents. I won't be able to take my revenge in this life. We'll sort this out in hell. After she finished her words, her left hand raised the saber and moved it towards her neck. Yang Guo heard her words and saw that her eyes and expression was cold and mournful. His heart jumped. His chest was in pain. His voice cracked as he said, Goo goo. At this time, Wanyan Ping had raised her saber to kill herself. Yellow Chi dashed forward 2 steps. His right arm came out and stretched out his 2 fingers and snatched the saber back again and sealed her arm's pressure points. He said, you're fine at the moment. Why must you be so short-sighted? The time it took the saber to rise and its being snatched away happened in a flash. By the time the crowd of people saw what had happened, the saber was in Yellow Chi's hand. Everyone in the room let out a call of surprise. No one noticed Yang Guo's shout of goo goo. But Lu Wuxia was by his side and heard what he had said. She quietly whispered, who are you calling? Is she your goo goo? Yang Guo quickly replied, no, no. When he saw Wanyan Ping's eyes showing a feeling of hurt and grief, her expression was bleak. It was just the way Xiao Longnu had looked like when she left him. After he saw this, he was sentimental and mad. He didn't know where he was. Yellow Chukai slowly said, Miss Wanyan, you have tried to kill me 3 times. I am the Prime Minister of Mongolia. I overturned your country and killed your parents. But do you know who killed my ancestors? Wanyan Ping shook her head and said, I don't know. Yellow Chukai said, my ancestor were De Liao's kitten royals. De Liao was conquered by the Jin. The Wanyans didn't leave many of us behind. When I was young, I made an oath. I will help the Khan of Mongolia to rid the world of you Jin. Ah, when will this cycle of revenge end? When he said these two last sentences, he looked out of the window and thought about how helping these countries to fight for power had resulted in the loss of many lives. Mountains of bodies and rivers of blood were a result. Wanyan Ping had no reply. She revealed a few of her white teeth as she bit down on her lip. She gave a grunt and said to Yellow Chi, "I failed 3 times because my abilities aren't good enough. I want to leave it at that. I want to kill myself. What does that have to do with you?" Yellow Chi said, "If Miss promises that she won't come back to seek revenge again, then you can go." Wanyan Ping gave another huh sound and stared angrily. Yellow Chi used the handle of the willow leaf saber and touched her waist lightly, unsealing her pressure points. He then threw the saber back towards her. Wanyan Ping struggled to catch it, but eventually did. She said, "Master Yellow, you have let me go many times and have held back each time. Do you think I don't know this? It's just that the debts between the Wanyans and Yellows are as deep as the sea. I must avenge my parents." Yellow Chi thought, "That girl insists on following us and she's not weak. If I leave father's side just a few steps, what will happen then?" "Ah, why don't I force her into coming after me only?" He clearly said, "Miss Wanyan, you are seeking revenge on behalf of your parents. I admire your will. It's just that the older generation's matters should be dealt with by the older generations. We juniors have our own debts. The matter between our families should be dealt with between us. If you want to take revenge, find me. If you go after my father again, then next time we meet I will not make it easy for you." Wanyan Ping said, "Huh, my martial arts aren't as good as yours. How can I avenge my parents? Just leave it, leave it." She turned around to exit. Yellow Chi knew that as soon as she leaves, she plans to end her life. He wanted to save her and chuckled, "Huh, the Wanyan girl has no will." Wanyan Ping stopped and turned around and said, "How do I have no will?" Yellow Chi chuckled and said, "You are correct when you said my skills are higher than yours, but what's so good about that? It's only because I have been taught by a great master, and not because I have some kind of great ability. Your iron palm, Kung Fu, is one of the best palm techniques. It's just that the person who taught you has not reached a refined stage. You have only begun to practice it recently. Of course, it will be hard for you to defeat enemies with it. You are young. All you've got to do is to find a better master. Can't you do this?" Wanyan Ping was angry originally, but after hearing these words, she nodded. Yellow Chi continued, "Every time I fight with you, I only use my right hand. It's not because I'm arrogant. It's just that my left hand is strong. Every attack aims to hurt someone. How about this? After you've studied under a better master, you can come and find me at any time. All you've got to do is to force me to use my left hand and my life will be in your hands." He knew that the difference between their skills was great. Even after getting advice from a skilled teacher, it will be hard for her to beat his one hand. When someone wants to kill themselves, it's just an impulsive decision. Once she searches for a master, her priorities will change, and eventually the thought of killing herself will have gone. Wanyan Ping thought, "You're not a god. I'll practice hard. Do you think I won't be able to use my 2 hands to beat your 1 hand?" She raised her saber in the air and slashed down, and she said, "The words of a gentleman." Yellow Chi finished, "A whip on a fast horse." Wanyan Ping did not look at the crowd and held her head high as she left, but her face could not hide her anguish. When the guards saw that second master had let her go, they didn't dare to block her. They all paid their respects to Yellow Chukai and exited. Yellow Jin saw that this event was like heaven and earth turning upside down. Yang Gu did not show himself. He was surprised. Yellow Yan said, "Second brother, why did you let her go again?" Yellow Chi said, "What?" Yellow Yan smiled and said, "If you want her to be my sister-in-law, then you shouldn't have let her go." Yellow Chi's face turned serious and said, "Don't talk rubbish." Yellow Yan saw that he was serious. She was afraid that he would get angry, so didn't tease again. When Yang Gu heard Yellow Yan say, "Want her to be my sister-in-law," for no reason at all his heart ached slightly. He saw that Wanyan Ping was heading in a southeasterly direction and said to Lu Wuxuang, "I'll go and take a look." Lu Wuxuang said, "Look at what?" Yang Gu didn't reply and utilized his lightness Kung Fu and chased after her. Wanyan Ping's martial arts skills weren't strong, but her lightness Kung Fu was good. Yang Gu chased after her, but only saw her again after they were outside the Colt Dragon Stockade town. He saw her arriving at a manor. She opened the door and entered. Yang Gu followed and hid by the wall. After half an hour, a light could be seen from the double room in the western wing, followed by a long sigh. That long sigh contained much anguish, hate, and worry. Yang Gu heard this from outside the window. He was startled and was moved. Unconsciously, he too gave out a long sigh. Wan Yinping heard that someone was sighing outside her window, so she quickly blew out the light and went over to the wall and quietly asked, "Who is it?" Yang Gu said, "Someone like you, someone whose heart is in pain." Wan Yinping was startled. She heard that his voice did not seem to carry any evil intent, so she asked, "Who exactly are you?" Yang Gu said, "There's a saying, when a gentleman wants revenge, 10 years is not long. You failed a few times and then wanted to kill yourself. Are you viewing your life with disregard? What about your revenge? Aren't you disregarding that matter even more?" A creaking sound was heard as the doors were opened. Wan Yinping lit a candle and said, "Please enter." Yang Gu made a bow outside the door and entered. Wan Yinping saw that he was dressed in the clothes of a Mongolian general and was very young. She was astounded and said, "Your advice makes sense. Could I have pleasure of knowing your name?" Yang Gu didn't reply. He placed his arms in his sleeves and said, "That yellow chi talks big, thinking that only using his right arm makes him highly skilled. Sealing pressure points and snatching a saber away, how hard can it be if it's done with no hands?" Wan Yinping objected to this, but because she didn't know he was teasing, she didn't rebuke him. Yang Gu thought, "How can I kill you? If you kill him or not, what has that got to do with me?" So he chuckled and said, "Actually, doing the 3 stances isn't anything special. Watch carefully." He picked up the saber and slowly slashed from the left to the right and said, "The first stance, it's chins crossing." Wan Yinping thought, "I already know that move. Who needs you to teach it to me?" She saw the saber coming towards her and slanted her body to avoid it. Yang Gu suddenly stretched out his hand and grabbed her right hand and said, "The second stance is the stance that you've used twice before, the rattan around the tree." Wan Yinping nodded and said, "Yes, it's my iron palms trapping hand stance." Yang Gu held her soft and smooth hand. His heart stirred and he smiled and said, "You should have learned the jade flesh palm kung fu. Why did you learn the iron palms capturing hand kung fu?" Wan Yinping didn't know he was joking and said, "Is there a jade flesh palm? The name sounds beautiful." She felt him holding her palm, tight, and then loose. The force behind it was extremely light. She felt that this palm technique wasn't as lethal as her iron palms, capturing hand techniques, and thought, "I know the first 2 stances that you are teaching me. Could it be that just with the 3rd stance, yellow chi could be killed?" Yang Gu stared at her eyes and said, "Watch closely." Suddenly he flipped his wrist and slashed the sword towards his neck. Wan Yinping was startled and called out, "What are you doing?" Her right hand was held tightly by Yang Gu. She quickly stretched out her left hand to snatch away his saber. Even though it was an urgent situation, her iron palms, capturing hand, came out with great accuracy. She grabbed his wrist and pulled backwards. The saber was pulled away from his neck. Yang Gu loosened his hand and took 2 steps back. He laughed and said, "Do you understand?" Wan Yinping wasn't settled yet. Her heart was jumping all over the place and didn't understand what he meant. Yang Gu laughed and said, "First use chins crossing and then use the rattan around the tree, holding tightly to his right hand. The 3rd stance is to kill yourself. He will definitely rescue you with his left hand. He swore an oath to you. All you've got to do is to force him to use his left hand and he'll let you kill him without objecting. Won't that do?" Wan Yinping thought this would happen. She stared at him, startled. Wan Yinping shook her head and said, "He said he won't use his left hand. He definitely won't." "What then?" Yang Gu said, "What about it? Since you'll never be able to avenge your parents, then won't dying be a clean solution?" Wan Yinping nodded her head mournfully and said, "You are right. Thank you for the advice. Who exactly are you?" Before Yang Gu replied, a girl's voice from outside the window called out, "He's called Sha Dan. Don't listen to what he says." When Yang Gu heard Lu Wuxuang's voice, he laughed and didn't reply. Wan Yinping went over to the window and saw a black image. A person leapt over the wall. Wan Yinping wanted to chase after them, but Yang Gu pulled her hand and laughed. He said, "There's no need to chase after her. It's my companion. She loves to make trouble for me." She looked at him and thought deeply for a while and said, "Since you don't want to tell me, then I won't force you. I believe that you have good intentions." Yang Gu saw her eyes sparkled. Her expression was crystal clear. He couldn't stop himself from being filled with pity and sympathy, and he pulled her hand and sat shoulder to shoulder on the bed. He softly said, "My surname is Yang, first name Gu. I'm a Han, not a Mongol. I'm like you, my parents are also dead." When Wan Yinping heard his words, her heart felt sad. 2 teardrops escaped from her eyes. Yang Gu was emotional and suddenly cried out. Wan Yinping took out a handkerchief from her pocket and gave it to him. Yang Gu took it and wiped his face. He remembered his past and more tears rained down. Wan Yinping smiled and said, Master Yang, you're making me cry now. Yang Yu said, Don't call me Master Yang, how old are you? Wan Yinping said, I'm 18, what about you? Yang Yu said, I'm 18 as well. He thought, if I'm born later than her and she calls me little brother, it won't seem right. I was born in the first month. You can call me Big Brother Yang. I won't be formal with you, I'll call you Sister Wanyan. Wan Yinping blushed. She felt that he was straightforward and extremely strange, but it seemed that he had no ill intentions towards her, so she nodded her head. When Yang Yu saw that she nodded her head, he was pleased. Wan Yinping's face was elegant. She was slim, but she's had tragic experiences. It seemed that she was born to attract sympathy and pity. But what was most important was that her eyes and Xiao Longnu's were extremely alike. He didn't consider the fact that when someone's heart is full of grief, their eyes will be filled with sorrow and anguish. Everyone is different in this world. When he thought that her eyes looked like Xiao Longnu's, he was just consoling himself. As he stared into her eyes, he imagined her black clothes were white. He turned her slim and oval face into Xiao Longnu's beautiful face. He was in a daze as he stared at her. His face revealed an expression of beseeching, of being sentimental, of affection, of love. Wan Yinping was slightly afraid and lightly pulled her hand away. She quietly said, What are you doing? Yang Yu woke up from his dream and sighed. He said, Nothing. Are you going to kill him? Wan Yinping said, I'm going now. Brother Yang, are you coming with me? Yang Yu was about to say, of course, but then he thought, if I'm there, she will know that she has strong backup. She won't really commit herself to suicide. Yellow Qi will not fall into the trap. He said, I'm not going with you. Wan Yinping's eyes showed some signs of disappointment. Yang Yu's heart softened. He was about to agree when Wan Yinping suddenly said quietly, Fine, Brother Yang, I'm afraid I won't see you again. Yang Yu quickly said, Why? Wan Yinping shook her head. She exited the manor and in a flash had arrived at the Yellow's residence. At that time, Yellow Chukai and the others were about to go to bed. Wan Yinping knocked twice at the front door and clearly said, Wan Yinping wants to see Master Yellow Qi. Some guards were about to go up to her and block her way when Yellow Qi opened the door and asked, What can I do for Miss Wanyan? Wan Yinping said, I want to test your skills. Yellow Qi wondered, How come you don't admit your limits? He slanted his body and stretched out his right hand and said, Please enter. Wan Yinping entered the room with her saber and unleashed 3 strokes with it. Sandwiched between the slashes were 6 iron palms. This one slash with 2 palms attacked together from the left and right. Yellow Qi's left hand hung down. His right hand chopped and grabbed as he neutralized the 3 slashes and 6 palms. He thought, how can I force her to go away and stop her from bothering our family ever again? The two fought for a while and Wan Yinping was about to use the 3 stances that Yang Yu taught her, when a girl's voice from outside called out, Yellow Qi, she wants to trick you into using your left hand, careful. It was Lu Wuxia. Yellow Qi was startled. Wan Yinping didn't give him time to think and immediately used a stance of chins crossing, and waited for him to slant his body to dodge it. She stretched out her left arm and used the rattan around the tree. She grabbed his right arm, and her right arm turned over and slashed the saber towards her throat. In that short period of time, many thoughts ran through Yellow Qi's mind. Must I save her? But she's tricking me into using my left hand. Once I use it, my life will be in her hands. How can a gentleman stand by and do nothing? Yang Yu had seen through Yellow Qi's thoughts. Once the 3 stances were out, he would definitely try to rescue her. But he couldn't have predicted that Lu Wuxia will have popped up and messed with the plan, informing Yellow Qi of the danger. The plan wouldn't have worked, but Yellow Qi was heroic and generous. He knew that if he saved her, his life would be hers. In this danger, he still stretched out his left hand and blocked Wan Yinping's right wrist. His wrist turned and took her willow leaf saber. After these 3 stances, each one of them took 2 steps back. Yellow Qi didn't wait for her to open her mouth and threw the saber back and said, You have forced me to use my left hand. You can kill me, but I have one request. Wan Yinping's face was pale and said, What is it? Yellow Qi said, I beg you not to harm my father. Wan Yinping gave an humph grunt and walked forward. She raised the saber. Under the candlelight, she could see that he was still calm and saw his manly air. She thought about how he used his left hand to save her. How could she hack him down? The intent to kill in her eyes slowly turned to peace. She threw down her saber and left. She ran without thinking, and someone followed her steps until she arrived at a stream outside the town. She stared at the reflection of the stars in the stream, her mind and heart in a mess. After a while, she sighed. Suddenly, a sighing noise could be heard from behind. Wan Yinping was startled. She turned around and saw someone standing behind her. It was Yang Guo. She called out "Brother Yang" and didn't say anything else. Yang Guo went forwards and held her hands. He consoled her. Avenging your parents isn't an easy thing to do. There is no rush. Wan Yinping said, "You saw everything." Yang Guo nodded. Wan Yinping said, "Of course it will be hard for one as useless as me to avenge their parents. All I need is half your ability, and I wouldn't be in this situation." Yang Guo took her hand and led her to under a tree where they sat next to each other and said, "Even if you learned everything I know, what use is it? Although you can't avenge your parents now, at least you know who to take revenge against. Won't you have chances again in the future? What about me? I don't even know how my father died, let alone who killed him. I can't even talk about revenge." Wan Yinping froze and said, "Your parents were killed by someone too?" Yang Guo sighed and said, "My mother died from an illness. My father died without reason. I never saw my father." Wan Yinping said, "How do you know?" Yang Guo said, "By the time I was born, my father had died. I asked my mother, how did my father die? Who is our enemy? Every time I asked mother, she would always end up in tears and wouldn't reply. After a while, I stopped asking. At that time, I thought it wouldn't be too late if I asked her when I get a bit older. But I didn't think that mother would die suddenly. Before she died, I asked her again. Mother just shook her head and said, 'Your father, your father.' AI, son, don't ever think about revenge. Promise mother that you'll never think about avenging your father." I was sad and grief-stricken. I called out, "I won't promise, I won't promise." Mother didn't breathe again and died. AI ... Tell me what should I do? He wanted to say these words to console Wan Yinping, but after he finished, he himself was sad. There's a saying, one mustn't live under the same sky as the person who killed your father. If someone didn't avenge their father, that is the most unfilial thing to do. They would suffer disgrace and humiliation and be despised by other people. Yang Guo didn't even know the name of his father's killer. He had hidden this matter in his heart for a long time. Now that he got it off his chest, his voice was filled with sadness and anger. Wan Yinping said, "Who brought you up?" Yang Guo said, "Who else? It was me, of course. Once my mother died, I wandered around the world of Jianghu. I asked for a meal here and pleaded for shelter there. Sometimes I couldn't endure hunger any longer and would steal a melon or a potato from a family. I always got caught and got beaten for a while. Look, I have many scars, my bones stick out, and these are all from when I got beaten when I was younger." He smiled and rolled up his leg for her to see. The stars and moonlight was indistinct. Wan Yinping could not see clearly. Yang Guo took her hand and rubbed it over the scars on his lower leg. Wan Yinping could make out the bumps of the scars and couldn't stop her heart from aching. She thought about herself, how although she has lost her family, her father had many old friends and acquaintances, and had left money and treasures. Compared to him, she was a lot more fortunate. The two were silent for a while. Wan Yinping pulled her hand lightly away from his leg, but her hand was still held by him. She quietly asked, "How did you learn your great martial arts? And how did you become a Mongolian official?" Yang Guo smiled and said, "I'm not a Mongolian official. I'm wearing Mongolian clothes so I can hide from my enemy." Wan Yinping was pleased and said, "That's good." Yang Guo asked, "What's good?" Wan Yinping's face turned slightly red and said, "The Mongols are the mortal enemies of the Jin. Of course I hoped that you weren't a Mongolian official." Yang Guo held onto her soft and smooth hand. His mind wasn't settled and said, "If I was a Jin official, how would you treat me?" When Wan Yinping saw that he was handsome and skilled in martial arts, she had liked him a bit, and now in her troubled times she had his help. She heard about his past and sympathized with him even more. Right now, she heard his voice had some ill intent, but she was not angry and sighed, saying, "If my father was alive, whatever you wanted, my father could have given it to you. Now my parents are gone, what use is there in talking about it?" Yang Guo heard her voice was gentle and peaceful. He stretched out his hand and placed it on her shoulder and whispered into her ear, "Sister, I have one request." Wan Yinping's heart jumped. She had an idea as to what he wanted to ask and quietly asked, "What?" Yang Guo said, "I want to kiss your eyes, relax. I just want to kiss your eyes. I won't do anything to violate you." Wan Yinping had thought that he wanted to ask for her hand in marriage, and was afraid that he wanted to get intimate if she refused and he used a little force. How would she be a match for him? She was a girl touched by young love. Her hand was tightly held by his strong, coarse hand. She was enchanted by the tangles of love. Without saying he would use force, and even if he didn't use force, it was hard for her to refuse. Who would think that all he wanted was to kiss her eyes? She couldn't stop herself from letting out a sigh of relief, but there was a touch of disappointment in her heart. She felt surprise, and her heart was tangled up like thread. Her eyes sparkled as she stared at him, startled. Her eyes revealed a touch of shyness. Yang Guo stared at her eyes and remembered the time Xiao Longnu left him. Her shy and loving eyes stared at him. He couldn't help groaning, and he jumped up. Wan Yinping flinched in fright. She wanted to ask what it was but couldn't open her mouth. Yang Guo's heart was in a mess. All he saw in front of him were Xiao Longnu's eyes. That last day when he saw her eyes, he was a young boy who wasn't yet clear about things. He respected Xiao Longnu but didn't understand what her words meant. After leaving the mountain, he had now spent a few days with Li Mochou, and now he was brushing Wan Yinping's face by the side of her ear. Suddenly his heart came alive. He understood now. He now understood the affection and love of Xiao Longnu. He couldn't refrain from feeling thousands of regrets and grief. He wanted to run into a tree and kill himself. He thought, Gu loves me deeply and said she wanted to be my wife. I unexpectedly rejected her good intentions. Where on earth do I start searching for her? He suddenly cried out and threw himself forward, holding Wan Yinping, and kissed her eyes forcefully. When Wan Yinping saw his forceful and mad actions, she was frightened and pleased. She felt his arms were like metal, holding tightly to her waist. She closed her eyes and let him do what he wanted. She felt his lips kiss her eyes only and didn't move from them. She thought how although his action is forceful, he kept his word, but she didn't know why he kissed her eyes only. Abruptly, Yang Guo called out, Gu. The voice carried the warmth of love, yet it carried extreme sorrow. Wan Yinping was about to ask him who is he calling out when suddenly a girl's voice from behind said, May I trouble you too? Yang Guo and Wan Yinping were both startled. They both jumped away from each other and saw someone standing by the tree. That person wore a blue-green gown. Wan Yinping's heart was still jumping, her face red. She lowered her head and tugged at the corner of her clothes and didn't dare look at the person. Yang Guo recognized this person. It was the one who had lured Li Mochou away from the inn a few days ago. He and Li Mochou had their lives saved thanks to that person. She had 2 knots of hair on her head. It was a girl. He bowed deeply and said, I won't forget Mrs. Help that day. The girl returned the greeting and said, Master Yang, at this moment in time do you still remember your companion? Yang Guo said, You are talking about. The girl clearly said, Li Mochou and her disciple have just captured her. Yang Guo was shocked. His voice quivered and said, Really? Is she in danger? Yang Guo called out, We'll quickly go and rescue her. The girl shook her head and said, Master Yang's kung fu is high, but I'm afraid you are still not a match for the Scarlet Serpent deity. There is no use in us losing our lives in vain. Under the flat starlight, he saw that the girl's face was unspeakably ugly. The flesh on the face did not move, like the face of a dead person. When one sees it, they can't refrain from being terrified. Yang Guo looked at her a few times and then didn't dare to look at her again, but thought, That girl is a kind and considerate person, but she has such an odd face. What a pity. If I look at her again, I'll show some signs of being shocked. I'll offend her then. He asked, Can I have the name of Miss? The girl said, There is no need to remember such a lowly name. Master Yang will know it in the near future. What's most important now is to think of a way to rescue Miss Lu. When she talked, the flesh on her face didn't move. If one didn't hear words coming from her mouth, they would think that she was a walking corpse. But it's strange, her voice was simple, soft, and gentle. It could revitalize a tired person and make one forget their worries. Yang Guo said, Since it is so, we'll rely on Mrs. Advice to rescue Miss Lu. I will listen to your orders. The girl was courteous and said, Master Yang, please don't be so formal. Your skills are better than mine 10 times over. When it comes to intelligence, I'm even further behind. You are older than me, and you are a man. Whatever you say will do. This young girl will follow your decisions. Yang Guo heard that these words were polite and gracious. His heart had an incredibly comfortable feeling. He thought that although the girl's face was frightening, her words were gentle and soothing. One should not judge someone by their looks. He pondered and then said, How about we follow them in secret and make the rescue when the chance comes? The girl said, That's a good idea. But what about Miss Wanyan? As she said this, she moved away and let the two discuss the matter. Yang Guo said, Sister, I need to go and rescue a friend. We'll meet again someday. Wan Yinping lowered her head and said, Although my abilities are low, I can still be of help. Brother Yang, I'll follow and help you in your rescue. Yang Guo was pleased and said, Good. He raised his voice and said to the blue-green girl, Miss Wanyan is willing to come along with us for the rescue. The girl came closer and said to Wanyan Ping, "Miss Wanyan, you are of an important status. You must think about this. Our enemy is extremely ruthless and vindictive. People in Jianghu call her the Scarlet Serpent Deity. It's really is in one's best interest to avoid her." Her tone was still courteous and polite. Wanyan Ping said, "Without mentioning the fact that I'm indebted to Brother Yang, his business is my business. A friend like Sister is definitely worth making. I'll follow Sister and will be cautious." The girl came over and held her hand and softly said, "Nothing could be better than that. You are older than me, call me younger sister." In the dark, Wanyan Ping could not see her ugly face, but she heard her soft and gentle voice. A soft and tender hand held onto hers. She assumed that she was a beautiful girl. She was happy and asked, "How old are you?" The girl laughed lightly and said, "Let's not compare our ages. Master Yang, what's most important now is to rescue your friend, is it not?" Yang Gu said, "Yes." "Can Miss please show us the way?" The girl said, "I saw them heading in a southeast direction. They must be heading for Wugyuan." The three then utilized their lightness kung fu and hurried to the southeast. The ancient tomb sect's kung fu's forte is lightness kung fu. It could be classed as the world's #1. Wanyan Ping's martial arts may not be anything special, but her lightness kung fu was not weak. How was it that the girl in blue-green followed behind her without breaking speed? When Wanyan Ping was going fast, she went fast. When she slowed down, the girl slowed down. The gap between them remained constant at 1 or 2 paces. Yang Gu was secretly surprised. What sect is that girl from? From her lightness kung fu, her skills are higher than Sister Wanyan's. He didn't want to lead the two girls and so slipped to the rear. They traveled until the sky became bright. The girl took out some food from her bag and gave it to the two. Yang Gu saw that although her blue-green gown was plain and natural, its design was exquisite. It fitted perfectly to her body. On her, the gown showed off her slim, graceful, and elegant disposition. It was superior to embroidered clothing. Water, food, and all other supplies were prepared by her, showing off how meticulous and careful she was. Wanyan Ping saw her face and was startled. She didn't dare to take any more glances and thought, "Is there such an ugly girl on this earth?" The girl waited for the two to finish their food and said, "Master Yang, Li Mochou knows you, yes?" Yang Gu said, "She's seen me a few times." The girl took out a thin towel-like object from her bag and said, "This is a human skin mask. When you wear it, she won't be able to recognize you." Yang Gu took it in his hand and saw that the mask had 4 holes for the eyes, mouth, and nose. When he placed it on his face, it matched the shape of his face. Like as if he was born with it, he thanked her with joy. Wanyan Ping saw Yang Gu put on the mask. His face was now extremely ugly, and then she understood. "Sister, so you're wearing a human skin mask as well. I'm really foolish. I thought you really were born with that weird face. I'm really sorry." The girl gave a quiet laugh and said, "With Master Yang's handsome face, wearing this mask is asking a lot from him. With my face, it's the same whether I wear it or not." Wanyan Ping said, "I don't believe that. Sister, could you take off your mask and let me see your face?" Yang Gu also was curious, and he too was anxious to see her face, but the girl took 2 steps back and laughed and said, don't look, my face will scare you guys." Wanyan Ping saw that she won't take it off and so didn't ask her again. By midday, the 3 arrived at Wugyuan. They found a restaurant in the town and had something to eat. The waiters saw Yang Gu was wearing Mongolian clothes and didn't dare to be slow. They made sure they tended to his needs first. The 3 were halfway through their food when they saw 3 females enter the restaurant. It was Li Mochou and her disciple along with Lu Wuxia as their captive. Yang Gu thought that although Li Mochou could not possibly recognize him at this moment in time, his strange face would attract her suspicions. It wouldn't be convenient for him to act, so he turned around and ate his rice, shifting his body to hear their conservation. Who would think that Lu Wuxia would not make a sound? After Li Mochou and Hong Lingbo ordered, they too didn't speak. Wanyan Ping had heard Yang Gu describe Li Mochou and her disciples before. She was anxious and dipped her chopstick into a bowl of soup and wrote on the table, "Time to move." Yang Gu thought, "Even with the 3 us and wifey, it'll be hard for us to beat the 2 of them. We can only win by using our brains, we can't use force." He waved his chopstick. There were footsteps from the stairs and 2 people emerged. Wanyan Ping glanced over. It was Yellow Qi and Yellow Yan. The 2 people also noticed that Wanyan Ping was there and both were surprised. They nodded and then found a table to sit down. The 2 knew that Wanyan Ping had left and wasn't going to try to assassinate their father again, so they left their father and brother and went traveling. They were even more relaxed when they saw Wanyan Ping was here. Li Mochou was troubled by the fact that the 5 poison codex had fallen into the hands of the beggar clan. These past few days she had no appetite for food. She just ate half a bowl of noodles and then placed her chopsticks on the table. She raised her head and looked out of the restaurant. On the corner of the street she saw 2 beggars. On their backs there were 5 pockets. They were 5 band beggar clan members. She had a thought and went over to the window. She signaled to the beggars and said, "Beggar clan members, please come here. This Taoist priestess has a message for your clan's chief." She knew that if she asked them to come up for no reason, they might not come, but if she said she had a message for their chief, they would definitely come. Lu Wuxia heard her master calling the beggars and knew that she wanted to inquire about the whereabouts of the 5 poison codex. Her face couldn't refrain from turning white. Yellow Chi knew that the beggar clan was a powerful force up here in the north, yet this beautiful priestess actually had something to say to them. He didn't know who she was, his curiosity was roused. He stopped drinking and watched them. In a short while, the sound of footsteps could be heard outside. 2 beggar clan members entered and greeted Li Mochou and said, "What does the angelic priestess want? We'll honor the request." After they greeted her, they stood up. One of the beggars saw that Lu Wuxia was present, and his face immediately changed. He had tangled with her before. He pulled his friend and leapt to the stairs entrance. Li Mochou gave a wry smile and said, "Please take a look at the back of your hands." The beggars looked on their back of their hands only to see 3 red prints. They didn't know how on earth she managed to do this. She had used her divine 5 poison palm, without disturbing ghosts or gods, roughly, completely unseen. The beggars didn't even know she had done anything. Even Yang Guo and Yellow Chi couldn't see clearly what had happened. Li Mochou softly said, "Go and tell your chief. Your clan and the one named Li have always kept away from each other. Say, the river water does not mix with the well water. I have always admired the heroes of the beggar clan. It's just that I've never had the chance to acquaint myself with the clan. I really regret that." The beggars looked at her and thought, "It sounds nice, but why did you use your poisonous techniques on us for no reason?" Li Mochou took a break and then carried on. "The 2 of you have fallen victim to the divine 5 poison palm. Don't worry. All you've got to do is return the book you stole and I will help you cure it." One of the beggars said, "What book?" Li Mochou laughed and said, "That old book isn't worth much. If your clan won't return it, it's not too important. I'll just take the 1,000 beggar clan members' lives as compensation." The 2 beggars' arms didn't feel anything strange, but each time they listened to a sentence, they would look down at their hands. They have heard about how evil and poisonous the scarlet serpent deity was. After falling victim to her, you will suffer extreme pain as you die. Their hearts were now imagining things. The 3 red marks on their hands seemed to be getting bigger, and they heard the ruthlessness and evil way she spoke. They wanted to go and tell their elders and plan what to do. They looked at each other and hurried down the stairs. Li Mochou thought, "If your chief wants you to live, she will definitely hand over the 5 poison codex obediently." Crap. If they copy the book and return the original to me, what then? She had another thought. My divine palms and concealed weapons antidotes are all written in the book. They've got the book. Why will they beg me? When she thought about this, her face changed. She flew over to them and blocked their path. 2 palm clashes were heard as she pushed them up the stairs. She was a yellow blur as she moved up and down the stairs. When she returned upstairs, she held one of the beggar's arms and twisted it. A ka-la sound, and the bone was broken. The other beggar was alarmed, but he was loyal to his friend. He didn't run away and dashed forward to protect his friend. He saw Li Mochou coming forward and threw out a fist. Li Mochou grabbed his wrist without effort and twisted it. The arm was broken. The 2 beggars knew that they had suffered serious injuries in just one stance, and they knew that they were out of luck today. The 2 stood back to back and raised their good arm, deciding to fight to the end. Li Mochou said courteously, "You 2 better stay here and wait for your chief to bring the book here as ransom." The 2 beggars saw her return to her table and drink wine, her back to them. They slowly edged towards the stairs and waited for a chance to escape. Li Mochou turned around and laughed and said, "It seems that the 2 of you are going to remain here only if your legs are broken." She stood up. Hong Lingbo couldn't bear it anymore and said, "Master, just let me guard them. I won't let them escape." Yellow Chi and his sister had been watching from aside. They couldn't bear it any longer, and both of them stood up. Yellow Chi whispered, "Sister, run away. This woman is very powerful." Yellow Yan whispered, "What about you?" Yellow Chi said, "As soon as I've saved the 2 beggars, I'll immediately run as well." Yellow Yan knew that there weren't many people that her brother couldn't beat. When he said that he needs to run to escape with his life, she couldn't believe it. At this time, Yang Guo slapped the table with force and went over to Yellow Qi and said, "Brother Yellow, how about we save them together?" He knew that if he wanted to save Lu Wuxia, he would eventually have to fight. With a skilled person who was willing to save someone like Yellow Qi, how could he avoid dragging him down with him? Yellow Qi saw that he was dressed in the clothes of a Mongolian general. His face was extremely ugly, and he had never seen this person in his life. He thought that if this person was actually sitting with Wan Yinping, then he knew who he was. But with Li Mochou's kung fu, it would be hard for him to win. If a normal person intervened, they would definitely lose their life in vain. He couldn't reply for the time being. Li Mochou heard Yang Guo talk and examined him. His voice seemed familiar, but no one can forget a face like his, and decided that she didn't know him. Yang Guo said, "I don't have a weapon, I need to borrow one." As he said this, he flew past Hong Lingbo's body and picked up the sword from her belt. He smelled her scent and said, "Very fragrant." Hong Lingbo threw out a palm, he ducked and darted underneath it, then stood between Li Mochou and the beggars. The essence of his movements were remarkable. It was the advanced kung fu he learned while catching sparrows in the ancient tomb. Li Mochou was secretly alarmed. Yellow Qi was delighted and said, "What is this brother's name?" Yang Guo swung his left arm and said, "Little brother is called Yang." He raised the sword sheath and said, "I stole a broken sword." He took the sword out of its sheath. The sword was indeed broken. Hong Lingbo realized who he was and called out, "Little punk, master, it's him." Yang Guo took off his mask and said, "Martial aunt, apprentice sister, Yang Guo greets you." When he said martial aunt, apprentice sister, Yellow Qi was mystified. Lu Wuxia was even more surprised. Why on earth is Sha Dan calling them martial aunt and apprentice sister? Li Mochou chuckled and said, how's your master?" Yang Guo's heart ached a little, his eyes went red. Days ago, Yang Guo had used unorthodox techniques to neutralize her most lethal stances, the three without hands technique. And after he took away her fly whisk with his teeth. His skills were strange. In fact, they were unimaginably strange. Although she managed to take her fly whisk back and knew that her skills were much higher than his, she pondered. This little punk is making very rapid progress, and apprentice sister is even more extraordinary. So the Jade Heart Manual is this good. It was lucky that apprentice sister did not team up with him to fight me, otherwise. Now he's appeared again. She was secretly afraid as she looked around, checking to see whether Xiao Longnu was here or not. Yang Guo knew what she was thinking. He laughed and said, "My master asks after martial aunt's health." Li Mochou said, "Where is she? We sisters haven't seen each other for a long time." Yang Guo said, "Master is nearby. You will see her shortly." He knew that he wasn't a match for her. Even with Yellow Qi's help, it would still be difficult, so he used an empty city idea, frightening her by mentioning his master. Li Mochou said, "I'm disciplining my disciple. What has that got to do with your master?" Yang Guo laughed and said, "My master pleads with martial aunt to let apprentice sister Lu go." Li Mochou chuckled and said, "You had relations with your senior. You and your master have done such disgusting things in front of others, yet you say master this and master that. Aren't you ashamed?" Yang Guo knew that she was insulting his master. His blood boiled up in his chest. He picked up the sword sheath and unleashed his sword skills and fiercely attacked. Li Mochou laughed and said, "You can do such unspeakable things, yet you are afraid of others talking about it." Yang Guo used the sword sheath and attacked continuously. It was severe and pressed forward without restraint. It was the sword skills left by Wang Chengyang to counter Lin Keiying's jade sword techniques. Li Mochou didn't dare to be careless. She used her fly whisk and concentrated on the incoming stances. The techniques of Li Mochou's whisk originated from the jade sword techniques. Many stances passed, and she felt the opponent's sword skills were extremely refined and ingenious. Every stance and every move of hers was predicted by the opponent and was intercepted by him. If were not for the fact that she was much more powerful than he, she would have begun to lose. She thought with anger, master was really biased, only teaching apprentice sister this set of sword techniques. She probably wanted apprentice sister to use this to neutralize me. Although this sword technique is extraordinary, does that mean I'm going to be afraid of it? She changed her stance and suddenly moved forward, leaping onto a table, her right leg kicked out, her left leg supporting herself on the top of the table. Her body moved back and forth without effort, like a leaf floating in the breeze. She laughed and said, "Did your lover teach you this move? I don't think even she will know this one." Yang Guo was alarmed and angrily said, "What lover?" Li Mochou laughed. My apprentice sister had sworn a serious oath. If there wasn't a man who was willing to die for her, she would spend eternity in the tomb and never set foot off the mountain. She has followed you down from the mountain. You two aren't husband and wife. If she isn't your lover, then who is? Yang Guo was extremely angry and didn't reply. He rushed forward with the sword sheath and leaped onto the table. His lightness kung fu couldn't compare with his opponent's. So he didn't step on the top of the table. He stepped on some bowls, but he remained steady and chopped across fiercely with the sheath. Li Mochou raised her fly whisk and repelled the sheath. She laughed and said, "Your lightness kung fu is not bad. Your lover has treated you well. It could be said that she loved you very much." Yang Guo was furious and couldn't restrain himself. He shouted, "The one called Li, are you a human? Are you speaking a human language?" He raised his sheath and quickly attacked again. Li Mochou calmly said, "If you don't want others to know, then don't give them anything to know about. My ancient tomb sect has come up with these two scum. We have lost all face." As she was attacking, she incessantly came out with sarcastic comments. She may be ruthless, but when she spoke, she was normally polite and courteous. What she was saying now was against her character. It was because she was worried about Xiao Longnu watching from the side. If she suddenly came out and attacked, it would be difficult for her to fight them off. So she kept up the insults, wanting to make Xiao Longnu so ashamed that she wouldn't appear. Yang Guo could not bear it. If she was insulting him, he wouldn't care, but Xiao Longnu was the one being insulted. With such anger, his arms and legs shivered, his head felt faint, his eyes suddenly went blank, and he couldn't stand up and fell from the table. Li Mochou raised her fly whisk and attacked down onto the crown of his head. Yellow Chi saw that this was an urgent situation. He picked up some wine cups and threw them at Li Mochou. Li Mochou heard the wind sounds and took a glance. It was some wine cups. She breathed deeply and protected the pressure points on her back. She had to kill Yang Guo now and worry about this later, thinking, why should she be worried about two little wine cups? Who would have thought that before the cups arrived the wine splashed out? She felt her two yang and central pressure points go numb after being hit by the wine. She secretly thought, crap, apprentice sister is here. If the effects of the wine are like this, what about the wine cups? She quickly turned her fly whisk around and knocked the two wine cups away just in time. She felt her arms shake and was even more worried. How did she get so strong? When she turned around, she saw that it wasn't Xiao Longnu who shot the cups out. It was a tall young man dressed in Mongolian clothes, and she was extremely surprised. Are there so many good fighters in the younger generation? She saw him take out his long sword and clearly say, "The angelic priestess's attacks are ruthless. I want to experience a few stances." Li Mochou saw him slowly advancing, his footsteps solid. He was about 20 or so, but judging from how he shot out the cups and how he was moving with his sword, his internal energy exceeded his age. She examined him and laughed. "Who are you? Who is your master?" Yellow Chi bowed and said, "I am Yellow Chi. I'm under the tutelage of the Quanjin sect." Yang Guo had leapt to the side. When he heard that Yellow Chi was from the Quanjin sect, he thought, he indeed is from Quanjin. Could he be Liu Chuxuan's disciple? How Datung can't teach something to such a standard? Li Mochou asked, "Is your master Ma Yu or Qiu Chuji?" Yellow Chi said, "No." Li Mochou asked, "Is it Liu Wang or Hao?" Yellow Chi said, "Wrong as well." Li Mochou chuckled and pointed to Yang Guo. He said he was the disciple of Wang Qingyang that makes you two apprentice brothers. Yellow Chi was surprised and said, "It's not true, is it? Elder Qingyang died a long time ago. How can that brother over there be his disciple?" Li Mochou's brows wrinkled and said, Hi, Quanjin has many disciples who can lie without blinking. I'm going to change Quanjin's name into Quanjia, prepare. Quanjin could be translated as whole truth. Quanjia is translated as whole fake." Her fly whisk moved and attacked his head. Yellow Chi's left hand raised his sword. His left foot stepped forward, a stance of fixed yang needle. The sword was thrust upwards. It was the orthodox sword skills of Quanjin. This stance's air and kai were absolute. The strength, power, and movement all has its fine points. At first appearance it looks very ordinary, but to reach a state where there was no weakness is incredible. People whose talent is just slightly lacking may not be able to reach such a state with a lifetime of practice. Yang Guo had learned the Quanjin sword techniques in the ancient tomb, so of course he knew the essence of the sword skills, but he just learned it without really practicing it. No matter what, he would not be able to demonstrate this stance with such profoundness. When Li Mochou saw him unleashing this stance, she knew that he was a strong enemy. She strode across and lashed her fly whisk. Yellow Chi saw a gray blur move. The fly whisk's threads were to the left and back of him, sweeping in from all directions. His battle experience was shallow, and this is the first time he has met a strong enemy. He concentrated and used all his strength to fight her. In a flash, 40 stances were exchanged. Yellow Chi coiled his sword back slightly. He saw defeat in front of him, but if Li Mochou wanted to win right now, she would not succeed. She secretly praised him. This little punk is indeed using the refined skills of Quanjin. Although he can't compare with Qiu, Liu, and Wang, he wouldn't lose to Sun Bar. There are indeed many able people in Quanjin. A few more stances passed when Li Mochou made a dummy move. Yellow Chi didn't know it was trap. He raised his sword and thrust forward. Li Mochou suddenly threw out her left leg and struck his wrist. Yellow Chi's arm was in pain. The sword escaped from his hands. Though he was being defeated, he didn't panic. His left hand slashed across. His right hand used the trapping hand techniques to try to steal her fly whisk. Li Mochou smiled and praised him. Very handsome kung fu. After many moves, she felt that his techniques had extreme softness. Liu Chuxuan and Sun Bar and the others did not have this. She was secretly surprised. Yang Guo interrupted with an insult. Bitch, I'll never acknowledge you as my martial aunt ever again. He raised the sword sheath and attacked. Li Mochou saw Yellow Chi's sword had fallen. She wrapped the sword with her fly whisk and shot it out at Yang Guo's face and laughed, saying, You are your master's man. You could call me apprentice sister. Yang Guo saw the incoming sword and raised his sword sheath forward. Lu Wuxia and Wanyan Ping both called out in alarm, but there was a shua noise as the sword was shot into the sword sheath exactly. The placement of the sheath to catch the sword was extremely difficult. If the sheath was just a millimeter or so out, and with the force that Li Mochou shot the sword with, the sword would have pierced his chest. However, he had learned the art of projectile throwing in the ancient tomb. The timing, weight, and accuracy of his skills had reached a stage where there weren't any errors. The hair, like jade bee needle, would hit its target as soon as he shoots it out, so catching the sword with the sheath wasn't a difficult skill for him. He took the sword out of the sheath and attacked with Yellow Chi. The tables and benches were all overturned, bowls were broken, and all the guests had long gone. In all the time that Hong Lingbo had been with her master, she has never seen her losing in battle. She lost out to Xiao Longnu in the ancient tomb because she couldn't swim. Her fly whisk was snatched away by Yang Guo, but was taken back immediately, and she forced Yang Guo to back away. Watching the two teaming up and attacking her master, she was slightly worried about her, but she stood to the side and watched. The three of them fought engagingly in battle. Li Mochou changed her stances, her fly whisk producing strong winds, forcing the two to wobble. In a flash, Yang Guo and Yellow Chi faced some dangerous stances. Yellow Yan and Wanyan Ping both called out, "Oh no!" They both stepped up to help. After using just 3 stances, Yellow Yan was struck on the left leg with the fly whisk. She was flung to the side and knocked into a table. Yellow Chi saw that his sister was hurt and became flustered. Under the fierce attack of Li Mochou, he kept retreating backwards. The girl in blue-green saw the situation was urgent. She dashed forward to take Yellow Yan out of the danger. Li Mochou's eyes saw everything and ears heard everything. She saw that the girl's movements were light, displaying signs that she was a disciple of a famous name. She swung her fly whisk across her face and asked, "What is Mrs. Name? Who is your master?" There was a distance of over 10 feet between them. In a flash, the fly whisk was swung in front of her face. The girl in blue-green was startled. Her right hand waved out. From her sleeve, she took out a weapon and blocked the fly whisk. Li Mochou saw that this weapon was extremely strange. It glittered like a gem. It was about 1 meter long, and it looked like a jade flute. She searched her mind. Which sect or family uses such a weapon? She quickly attacked, wanting her to display her skills. The girl could not hold on. Yang Guo and Yellow Chi dashed forward to help. But it was hard to defend against Li Mochou's swift and fluent style. Stances from the east and palms from the west. In a flash, danger came again. Yang Guo thought, all we've got to do is make one little mistake and our lives would be hard to protect. He opened his mouth and called out, "My good wifey, sister, my sister in blue-green, sister yellow, let's all leave the restaurant and take a break. This bitch is very lethal." Yang Guo and Yellow Chi fought together against Li Mochou's stances, which were becoming more and more lethal. They carried Wanyan Ping and retreated downstairs. Yang Guo said, "Brother Yellow, our movements are restricted. Let's go downstairs and fight." He thought that once they were in a crowded place, they would be able to escape. Yellow Chi said, "Fine."